Bring in the boss squad, I'm gonna get mine. Go do the crime, if you can't do the time, don't tell me how you're off and down. When you're smiling in my face, but you play me like a clown, it's your fool bitch. So just step back, I'm mad that when I come down straight, I thought you were my piece, but you play me out. Now I'm mad as hell, and I'm full of doubt. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's roll. I'm back on the scene, it's time to get mean. I'm a lean revolution machine. For what people stay, they sway. For today is good as any day. You'll feel slightly this, let's resist. Raise your fist and pump like this. Promises all the time. Don't cross the line, but you know it's right. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's roll.
Trouble time, get something in your rhythm. 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 Trouble time, get something in your rhythm.
Brooklyn, who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? 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 Who you wanna roll with?
Right on. Welcome to the Ignorance is No Excuse podcast, coming to you live from Bayonne. And we're here with Sue tonight. Hi, Sue. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Hey. What's up? I'm in a lot of pain. Extreme amount of pain. The warm weather does not help me because when it goes from cold to hot, my back does not like it. The metal in my back and my nerves and all that don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like it.
Well, that's just that's the aging process.
Yeah. Yes.
That's where that is where we hold all our emotions. We hold it in our hips and our back.
Ouch.
So
I have a lot of emotional damage apparently.
Yeah, well, so you're gonna have to start using some of Healer makes something good. It's a CBD cream to rub in. I've used it. I like it. I can turn you on to that.
I do like the CBD creams and the lotions.
Yeah, this one is pretty good. This one is probably better than the other ones I've used.
So what's going on with the Cannabis Nurses Network?
Well, we kind of feel like, well, maybe I'm just like speaking for myself because I made the statement. Now everything is, all about the psychedelics. Everybody's pushing psychedelics forward, and we're kind of getting kicked back to the back of the line again, for like 84 years now.
Like the cannabis patients, we're not even on the back burner. We're like not even on the stove anymore.
No, I know, and because the pharmaceutical companies are going to make a lot of money with all with all of the psychedelics, so that's why they're pushing that, really, because they're going to control it. And you've got a lot of this is all going to be psychiatry and what have you, and even for like nursing, like there's we don't even know where our place is in any of that, like I'm taking this and I think I shared that with you. I'm taking this psychedelic doula course to get certified, and I don't even know, to tell you the truth, I don't get it, I don't get all this touchy feely stuff, because I'm not a therapist. I was a trauma nurse, but nursing, in nursing, like we want to know, like I want to know what dose I'm giving somebody, what happens if they get a bad reaction, how do I reverse it, do they need their chest cracked, like what, like what's, what are the side effects, what's the patient's history, like I want to know how crazy you are, and I don't mean that to be, to be a smart ass, but like seriously, like what are your issues? Like why do you need assisted psychedelic therapy? People only go for that because they are so entrenched in this whole psychiatric community that snagged everybody 20 years ago, with the SSRIs, with all the antidepressants and what have you, and they ended up being no good for anybody. They're not good for anyone. There's a really good book out, and if you ever want it, in fact, I have it right here. It's called Dopamine Nation, and it talks more about like, how all of these medications and what have you, and cannabis also, how they affect our neurotransmitters, our neural system. That's what this is all about. It's that pain pleasure ticket. So, I don't know. It's just, ketamine. We used ketamine 25 years ago on burn patients, and we tried ketamine, and ketamine is really an anesthetic. It's not a psychedelic. But there were thoughts about, at certain levels that, you can induce some kind of, euphoria, like Matthew Perry, and then he fell asleep and he drowned. And that was really sad that happened to him. But, there was nobody there to, bring him back to the world, because he got disoriented. And that's what's going to happen, but that's an anesthetic, and he shouldn't have had that. Obviously he was able to get it on his own, because if he would have had somebody there with him, it wouldn't have happened. But then when you get into the other stuff, when you get into, they called MDMA, we called ecstasy. That's what I come from. Where are the levels? Like what do people want to do with that? Where do you want to go with that? What's your intention? It's like going into a yoga class. They tell you to set your intention, before you namaste. So what is it that you want from that? Ecstasy was a fun drug in the 90s. It was the club drug, right? And if I'm talking too much, shut me down, because I have a tendency to do that. But, there's all different levels, too, of ecstasy. People were in the 90s, people were having bad side effects from ecstasy because nobody knew dosages. They were just partying, so they were taking extra amounts of X because they wanted to stay high because they liked the feeling. I know what that feels like. It feels great. It was fun. However, what happens is, it speeds up everything. It's, it's like a meth high. And in some aspects, you're not as jittery, but the same stuff is happening to the body. You're going to become dehydrated. Your blood pressure is going to elevate, or it's going to bottom out, depending on what your dopamine structure is all about, So I just feel like we got kicked to the curb again. And, it's going to be all about that stuff rather than what our focus was. Our focus has been cannabis. And for the Cannabis Nurses Network, we will stay there. We're staying with it. Yeah, I'm looking into all the other stuff because people want to know about it. There's a lot of people, in these organizations and associations and what have you. They're a little bit younger, so to them, this is like, exciting, and they want to be a part of it and what have you, without the history. And the history is important. And that was one of my main things that I had when I was in this class. I said, okay, so like, you just had me read this article and you talked about, blah, blah, blah. This is what happened, and this is what they were using LSD for in 1950 to use it for alcohol withdrawal. Okay. Well, so then what happened? Then it just went away, Bill Wilson was the so-called father of Alcoholics Anonymous. His wife, his spiritual advisor, they were all doing acid with Huxley. And, I guess it was successful. I don't know. I wasn't there, but then, then Nixon came along and Anslinger and all the rest of the crew, and they just wiped everything out. So that was the end of it, and then everything went into DEA scheduling. So now you got, handcuffs on everything. So I don't know where it's going to go. I really don't, but it's frustrating. I'm finding it very frustrating, especially this week.
This week in particular?
Yes. There's so much out there about it. There's so much. It's like on overload, It really is. Everybody wants to be in on the act. Everybody wants to, develop their own, I don't know, organizations and associations, and they're all called specialists, and nobody's a specialist. They don't know what they're doing. They're doing the same thing that they did 20 years ago with like I said, the SSRIs, they're experimenting. So all of, and that breaks my heart, because all of the people that are out there, and they're innocents, they really are, they like I said, they don't have the history that we may have, because we're just a little bit older, and we were in a different generation and culture. They think it's good. I don't know how good it is. What do you think? What do you think, Jim?
What do I think? I got 90% of what you were saying with falling off context, because I came in like kind of in the middle. So I was trying to see where you are on this. And psychedelics. I don't have experience with ecstasy, only because nobody ever said, here's a free one you want to try, or I would have, but I never did. It seemed pretty benign in what I was saying of people, but that was like 1980.
Late 80s, early 90s.
No, or like probably 86, maybe.
Yeah.
Around 86, And the first time I crossed paths with it, I was at the time living in San Antonio for like 6 months with Cheryl. And went to see my brother was there on a job for a while. That's kind of why we moved there. We're working dried up in Oklahoma City. So, and
I worked in San Antonio for a while too.
Yeah, it was pretty. I really liked it there in a way, but
yeah, it's changed.
It is kind of different. But anyway, I went to see my brother. It was like with two of his friends, and they were staying on the third floor of a condo. And I was walking up, and they came like walking on down, all smile, ready to go. And yeah, what are you doing? Going for a walk. Why? Why not? And I had no idea. I mean, okay, so what are you doing? and it seemed fun enough and all, but it's mushrooms I have a little more experience with, and again, not a lot.
Mm.
Um, but I've watched some videos on uh, therapy with psilocybin, and what do you call it? A person that's there for you, and there's people under little individual areas relaxing, and people sort of monitoring, and Hallie seems to be maybe a little bit more. They're monitor. It it interested me because although I've never been in analysis, unless somebody's doing it secretly, I've never been in analysis. So I don't know what it involves, but I can kind of see how long it takes with people opening up and all that. And to have an aid like that in a controlled setting, and for therapeutic value, I can see where it might have some that I would think should be investigated. Not just like, well, here it is. I kind of like that, but I see a lot of what you're saying about it's convoluting my whole reason for doing what I do, which is cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I feel more like if other people are going to be including hallucinogens, it's CMMJ, it's not private business. We did have to change our mission statement, which was strictly medical cannabis. And then the first time was, yes, we support legalization as well. I mean, we're not going to not support legalization. So that, okay. But even that muddied the waters a lot, where all of a sudden it was a lot about adults. And I'm an adult. I like that. I mean, I waited 50 years to become the adult that lived through this, finally getting some traction to normalize things a bit. But there's just a lot. It could be a coincidence. I feel like it's taken away from the impetus of medical cannabis goals that I have and that I have in common with people in organizations. And I'm fine with that, but it seems like I don't know how it could encroach on people on what you would do for medical cannabis. I mean, in one respect, it doesn't make sense. But I learned things like this don't have to make sense for me to know something. There's something. When I'm talking about more like that I'm watching out for in a way that I don't want anything to encroach on my main interests. And it seems like it has, in a way, organizationally speaking, at times, and it could just be me, but for a long time, when cell phones were being regulated, and it was like it distracts you from driving, and I didn't think it did distract me from driving, and what I learned is it didn't distract me from driving for safety reasons. I just was missing turnoffs. I mean, like, I just went by a turn I've never missed in my life while I was on a phone, driving perfectly. And as far as driving with one hand, I kind of get it, but then I scratch my face and I can hold my hand like this and I'm not breaking laws. So, my point was that I'm not sure I'm really qualified to understand. I don't want to sell it short, because I don't think I know enough to. And some of that is from generational difference, I think. Because my experiences with LSD were, they weren't controllable. I mean, even at a mild level, it kind of had a path and you were on it. It wasn't ever anything, don't see that, Jim. But I'm seeing it, And but what I watched in video, it seemed like it could be a pretty good thing to be like clinically experience if it would help you. And I could see where for some therapists, if they were knowledgeable about it with enough to be doing what they're doing, maybe it would shorten the process, because sometimes people don't outlive the process of getting their mental stability, because I can see how it just you got to chip away at it. It's not like there's a fast way to get around stuff. But I would just hope that I don't know. I'm trying to be careful what I say, only because, I don't want to have to walk anything back that I say. I don't really like doing that. I don't mean to be so uncommittal, but I guess it's that controlled setting thing. But then, somebody had told me something like that about cannabis like years and years ago. I just said, bullshit, controlled setting. I don't want to sit there and smoke and talk with people and advance myself. I just liked it for having fun.
Yeah.
And that all, but then, it all changed when I found out how much I didn't know about cannabis for more than half of my experience with it. I would laugh at the notion there's different kinds. Come on. Sometimes I feel like laughing. Sometimes I get tired. Sometimes I get more pensive. And I thought that was just my mood, not that something could actually steer me in a direction. So, you know what I mean? I just don't think I know. And you have a lot more experience and training in what we're talking about. So I was listening very carefully what you say, because I'm not really quite sure. I don't want it not looked at, and I don't want something rolling slower, than it might need to. If it didn't have consequences, that would be something you'd want to avoid. I don't know. Then I don't want to be that old guy that, when I was young, it's like, why don't you cut your hair? I don't want to be that guy either. Because that just made me not get a haircut.
I think that's like a key word that you brought up when you said consequences, because we don't know the consequences. Right. And like, you and I, when we dabbled in acid, LSD, and what we called them shrooms, right? Sometimes you didn't even feel anything, and I know people now today that are not, they don't come from the same, like background that we kind of do, where they're looking at it in a clinical way, and they're not getting the effects that they think they're supposed to be getting, because they've been told this is what is supposed to be happening. When you do something recreationally, that's what you're doing. You're playing. We played, and we had fun doing it. I had a lot of fun, and just like you brought up, about some of the weed that we didn't know about, that we do know now, the different all the different hybrids and what have you, sativa versus indica and blah blah blah. We didn't talk about
the CBD. There was something, I didn't hear about that till Renee Emery from Renee from Michigan, MS patient that, I get names mixed up. An MS patient that went and smoked marijuana in I forget whose office, after Cheryl ate some cannabis in Jim Rogan's office. 6 months later, she duplicated, only actually lit up, And then a couple of years after that, when we met in Washington, she just looked at me and went, CBD. And I'm, okay. I'd never heard of it.
No.
And then she started explaining, and it was like this whole fairy tale that opened up a rabbit hole that I haven't come out of since. It was like there was all that other stuff going on,
Yeah.
and not to mention all the other uses of the plant.
Yeah.
And it was like Lester Grinspoon would say when he first was charged with looking into it. It's like every time he peeled back a layer, he had 2 questions for every one he would answer.
Mhm.
Because there was just so much to it. So I don't know. I don't know.
I
really
think
don't know.
if you really want to, investigate this, any further on here, and you mentioned Lester, his son is also a physician, Peter, and I talk with him frequently. So, he would come on the show, and kind of walk us through some of the stuff because I have questions for him all the time. Which is good because I don't get them really answered from anywhere else other than my own research, me printing out, published NIH or, studies and what have you, and I'm always suspicious of those studies anyway, because that's just me. I just have that suspicious mind about it. Like, I don't know if I believe this stuff or not, but you're right with CBD. We've never heard of that.
Didn't know there was, I didn't know there was indica sativa. I didn't know any,
remember the names. I remember the names, but like we didn't. I don't think we attached them to anything. It was whatever it was.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. When I say back in the day, it's to be more well defined. It would definitely be before the 80s, mid 70s. Even no later than that. It was, what kind is it? I didn't know there was kinds, and I thought it was just about. So when I'd have sometimes I'd buy a quarter pound, sell 3, get 1 free, and somebody would be, what kind is it? And I think I've not even mentioned this here before, from a different vein, and I just got tired of it. So rather than saying try some, what's the difference? I said Ecuadorian blue, I called it.
Yeah, you tell me that story.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like, it was. It didn't seem real, but I was wrong, So I remember that I was wrong, and I have no trouble with being wrong, as long as I learn from it. Right. I'm reticent to do the same thing more than once in a stupid way, and I do, but I try to keep it to a minimum. So I when you see me not having a lot to say and listening, it's because I know it's a weak suit of mine, and I'm trying to pick up markers, listening to people, and I too kind of read between lines of everything as I'm receiving information. I refer to as yellow flags, red flags. I have like something kind of doesn't line up real good.
That's red.
I mean, it's we won't get fooled again. Oh, I just got fooled again, huh? Okay. I don't want to be that guy either,
Yeah.
But then it is good to question things, even things that you like when you hear them, I still want to investigate, if it seems too good to be true. It doesn't mean it isn't. It just means you got to have eyes wide open. And,
what do you think about, they just made the diagnostic manual for psychiatric disorders. It's called the DSM, and it gives codes for billing and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's a blah, blah, blah for you. It's not something that, the only people that benefit for it are the people that know how to work the system. So now CUD, cannabis use disorder, which I poo-pooed away. Like, first time I ever heard it, I was like, get out of here. There's no such thing as cannabis use disorder. But you know what? I have a friend who she has her PhD, and she's No, she's a little bit closer to our age, so it's not like she, just fell off the turnip truck. So she really did big research on this, and there is a cannabis use disorder. However, there is also alcohol use disorder, and people file for disability. So like now we're going to go into a whole different conversation about this. But anyway, and people file for disability, whether they're still drinking or not, they file for disability and they collect it. And that pisses me off. Okay. So now we've come up with cannabis use disorder. Well, so I'm like, well, what's cannabis use disorder anyway? So, I looked up all of their research and I read everything I could find on it. And I'm like, okay, so they smoke pot all day. All right. Well, I knew people like that. I don't know, I had periods of my life where I probably was doing that, I don't know, so what does that mean? So does that mean now that we're going to be paying somebody's ticket for that disorder also that I can't wrap my head around? Like I'm, and I'm a nurse, but I can't wrap my head around that whole mystique of cannabis use disorder. If you run out of weed, you're not going to go out and rob a house and, or what have you, you know what I mean?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's listed. It's in the criteria. So it has a code. So it could be, you can go to a psychiatrist and you can say, hey, listen, as soon as I get up in the morning, I light a joint, I smoke all day. It interferes with my life, blah, blah, blah. You can say all of this stuff. I work with women in recovery. And the first time I heard this was one of the women I was working with. She's a hot potato. I don't know what to say on here. But anyway, she said to me, she had to tell me her whole story. And then she told me she was on disability. I said, for what? She said, because I'm an alcoholic. I said, so? You're not drunk right now. So she said, yeah, but that's disability. I said, why is it a disability? You're in recovery. How's that? You're not disabled. Like, what are you talking about? Like Cheryl was disabled. That's disabled to me. And I'm a healthcare professional. Okay. So you're going to tell you actually went to a psychiatrist and he actually wrote up, and I've been on disability for my knees, and they had to write up some hefty thing. I had bilateral knee replacement surgery for 6 months I was on that disability, and they had to write up some hefty paper for it to go to the powers that be that it, approve it. And I'm like, well, what'd you say to the shrink? What did you say? And she told me, she said, I just said, yeah, I didn't make any eye contact with him. She gave me the whole 9 yards about it. And I was a little pissed. I said, so you get Medicaid too, that means? And she said, yes. And I said, so in other words, okay. And you work off the books. All right. So I pay for you is what you're telling me. Okay. I'm not just helping you through recovery. I'm also paying for you. Right. And what I wanted to say is, you're what is that? What is that? So are we going to see the same thing with what they're calling CUD, cannabis use disorder, because we have a different generation? And I'm going to go off to the moon with this one. We have a different generation of parents. Okay. They do what's called soft parenting. And I am not a fan of that. Okay. I'm a mom. I've got grown men for kids and I've got grandkids. This soft parenting thing, no, it's not okay. No means no. And if you don't like it, too bad. Get over yourself, right? But that's not how it works. Everybody gets taken because they got a kid that's maybe a little bit overactive. They take them to the pediatric shrink, and the pediatric shrink puts them on Ritalin or Adderall or whatever, you're giving little kids speed. That's what you're doing. What is everybody thinking just to bring peace and calmness in your environment? That's what you're going to risk. You're going to risk your kid's health. you're gonna play the system. Like it's also so wrong, and all of the wrong things I've done in my life, I say to myself, listen to me, on my soapbox now, but I don't know, I don't know.
We're a big pharma state, and if you go to the New Jersey website for addiction, it's called Reach New Jersey.
Yeah.
It talks about all the things you can use to get off opiates, including methadone and all these other things.
Mhm.
Now, isn't cannabis used to get people off opiates in New Jersey?
No,
It's
no,
not.
no, because it's still not legal. It's not federally legal. So what happens is, because what the studies have shown is that CBD works for addiction recovery. Okay, to get people off of opioids. All right, and I've done a lot of research on that. In fact, I wanted to do a whole presentation to try to get these people that I'm involved with to go along with it. And basically what they told me is, you know what, Sue, that's a lovely presentation you just gave us, but the deschedule, the reschedule, all that stuff is on the back burner, and we're not going to see anything happen this year, so don't waste our time.
I'm just talking about New Jersey, where it's a.
I'm talking about New Jersey.
Isn't opiate use disorder a qualifying condition for cannabis in New Jersey, though? I thought it was.
No.
Well, it is. Cannabis is an indication to allow somebody into the program that has what they call opiate use disorder in the program.
But they don't use it like you would go to like a methadone clinic or.
No, well, nobody uses it. Nobody uses it like that for any of the other things that they do as well. So, I mean, I don't. I see it in not like a clinician dealing with a person and through them, but with people essentially self-medicating. If it works, I'm all for it. And if somebody says it works for them, I don't question it. I didn't know what to think of Dr. Donald Abrams' statement. He was the president of the MS Society when Stephen Reingold was, it's like main guy, a go-to guy and all of it. Anytime I said something about cannabis and how it helped with MS with Cheryl in the media, they would always go to the MS Society for a counterpoint. I really resented the MS Society for that.
Yeah.
But Dr. Donald Abrams said, it was in print, so it was like a quote in a newspaper. It wasn't like we had all these mediums to exchange information. And he said, cannabis doesn't make you feel better. It only makes you think you feel better. And I thought, okay, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure when somebody thinks they feel better, they feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, they feel, and I can't tell them what they feel, and nobody else can. I mean, they could be lying. Anybody could say, yeah, I feel better. And, you have no way of.
You only think you feel better.
Yeah, that's what he said. You only think you feel better. I thought, well,
that's good.
Well,
that's what we want.
But no, there's a difference between I'm not saying somebody's saying I am better when they say how they feel.
I am better.
It's their feeling and nobody else has it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even if the wiring system that leads them to that isn't the same as what I have, and as far as, cannabis use disorder, order is of course relative, and I don't know. Okay. Get what you will of this. See if I can tell a quick story and see if you can even see the relationship to it. Because by the time I'm done with it, I won't. Why did I tell you about that? I'll tell you back in the old days, two small little kingdoms, and they were warring with each other, only about 25 people each, and one went over and they poisoned their water supply was poisoned, by the other little kingdom. I'm always thinking little Liverpudlians. I don't know why. It's just the way it was told to me. But anyway, everybody drank from the fountain and they went mad. But the king was drinking wine all day and he didn't have any. So the townspeople got together and said, something's wrong with the king. It appears he's gone mad. So they all went to get this king who was now way different than them. So they figured he'd gone mad. And they went over to depose him. But in the meantime, he ran out of wine and drank from the fountain. And when the people got there, they rejoiced that the king had regained his senses. My point is, I don't want to be one of those people that are rejoicing that he gained his senses when in fact he just fell off the cliff with me. It's I understood that, and I try not to be wrong about that. There's where do you cross from somebody that really likes a food like pizza? I mean, they just love it and they have it too much, and so they don't want to have it so much. But it's what they're thinking about. Is that a pizza use disorder?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It really could be. I mean, I'm not even being sorry. I'm wondering, is there such a thing? Just because I don't understand it doesn't affect me, doesn't mean it's real to them. And then I say, okay, not so much now, but there were times in my life when, yeah, it made a big difference. And it was more like after work, end of the night, dinner's done, and oops, I don't have any. I'd start thinking about who does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I could take a trip over there. It's only 35 minutes away, to hang out for a couple minutes. And, if somebody said, well, see, Jim, how far would you? Yeah, it did sort of think about it a lot,
Yeah.
And then when I had my own nicotine addiction, I didn't understand it to the point that I would watch a cigarette real close and it would burn, by itself without being smoked. And if you look real close at the edge, it's like little flare up on the paper, the cigarette here. And I just watch it burn down going, why am I about to inhale this? I don't want to. I don't have to. Nobody's forcing me to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not shaking. I'm not sweating. I'm not in pain. And then I would, and it confounded me. So personally, I stay away from things like that. It's sort of like, well, I don't understand it. It doesn't really affect my life to know, I mean, I'm not going to do anything about it one way or the other. So then I start to think, well, maybe I'm addicted to understanding things,
Yes. So what do you do for that now?
Exactly. But that doesn't negate dividing lines are necessary and pretty much impossible to effectively do ever. I mean, it's as soon as one thing is regulated, you have to. There, dividing lines are drawn. Who gets it and who doesn't? Which of course, in my always getting back to medical cannabis reminds me of Nick Scutari saying, yes, he's sure we will have some sort of medical home grow provisions, but probably only for the sickest or most seriously in pain.
Or the dying.
That he said that. So he's thinking you can draw dividing lines around that. And which side of that fence I'm on. It's like, it's, if you're going to have home grow for patients, it's going to be for registered patients, not some registered patients. And we'll tell you whether or not you qualify for our pilot program to see how it works, rather than look at any of the other states that are doing this. Well, see, there I go again.
Come on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Lefty. I did write that. I did write up that a potential for a petition aimed at Craig Coughlin to commit to allowing the democratic process of a bill becoming law take place.
Don't scoot the bill.
Yeah. No, actually, when writing a petition, first I write it and then I take out all Jim Miller markers. People say, that's Jim's work. No, I don't want it to be. It's basically has to be, and I looked at some of the petitions on change.org just to see how long or short a petition is and what it is. It's really like would be a sign-on letter if it was a sign-on letter, and the exact same thing is just a petition, And the whole purpose, though, is for I had to find out he's called the assembly speaker. It's for him, how he's going to view it, not how anybody else is. It's a legislator is going to go, okay, how does this affect me in my world? And to have broken it down so he will understand the path of home grow and how close it came. I mean, he should know a little bit about it already. But that what I refer to as Scutari is circling back to knife patients in the back, because he was their hero. And then when he became Senate president, there was a lot of patients that thought, oh, this is really good, because this is the guy that made sure we have medical cannabis. And now he's the guy making sure that home grow bill is not going to be heard for 3 years. It's a very quick turnaround. And I want the Craig Coughlin in the assembly to know that everybody else is going to know that he has that same power in the assembly that Senator Singleton abused. Senator Singleton, that Senator Scutari abused in the Senate as Senate president. The idea of saying there is no will in the Senate to pass this bill, when the question is, why are you holding it up? You're holding up the information that would be gleaned from a Senate hearing and then saying there's no will to pass it. It's like a shell game, And like I always remind, this is a medical issue. It's not a recreational issue. It's a medical issue and should be treated as such, seriously. So that if Craig Coughlin knows that it's going to become quite common knowledge that Nick Scutari is keeping information from other senators about this particular home grow bill or any home grow bill for patients, and he doesn't really want to deal with the adult side of the argument. He knows he can't deal with the patient side, so he doesn't. He just avoids doing that. But at this point, Craig Coughlin has to know that we know that he has that same power, and that patients have been through now 3 years of a really timid home grow bill not being allowed to be heard in a committee hearing, and one with bipartisan co-sponsorship as well. So that if Craig Coughlin does not pull a Scutari, this bill is going to get heard this session. The idea that the reason it didn't get heard in the assembly, well, the guy that pulled it out and never told us why, Herb Conaway, is still the chairman there. And the assembly version of the bill landed in his committee, and as soon as it did, I know that was a problem. And then he jerked everybody around as to why he wasn't posting it for a hearing in a dozen different ways, depending how somebody would come at him. He was just brushing it off, and it's in his committee. But to find out that now the committee that it's in, the turnaround, I want Coughlin to know other people are going to be signing on to this, knowing it as well. That this bill is now in a committee with 5 people in the committee. The Oversight and Regulations and Federal Relations or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that the chairman and vice chair are the 2 co-sponsors of this bill. They will want it heard in committee. They're not going to, Conaway could tank it in his committee because of his predilections, but they are want to go the opposite way. And the only thing standing in the way of a medical cannabis home grow standalone bill for medical home grow has never had a hearing ever since the beginning of time, since the beginning of New Jersey. And it's all about having the hearing, and all he has to do is not do that, and it's going to be heard. And then nature gets to take its course, legislative nature. They can hold it up from having a vote. I mean, if a person doesn't want it to happen, like Scutari, he could let the information be there. This is America, you know. We like it. We don't want our information kept from us. Well, you know, he didn't have to, but he chose to do that because if you think like somebody like that, the only thing I would be thinking about is how does this look for me? I'm either going to not allow a vote to happen, or I'm going to not allow a hearing to happen. Okay, not allowing a vote to take place sounds as anti-American as you can get. So you don't want to do that. So he just stopped it at the gate, you know, going, I'm busy. You know, you can kind of duck and weave and your way out of that because he has for, 2 years officially as Senate president. But before that, he was pretty much Sweeney's right-hand man when he was doing it the year before.
I have a
And-
question for both
Yeah.
of you. Okay, let me just interrupt you.
Start with Lefty.
What happened? Okay, you know I've been in New York for 20 years. Okay, I just came back here. So what happened? Why when you know Jersey is like one of the star states, you know, one of the out there states like New York, like California, like Oregon, Colorado, blah blah blah. And Jersey doesn't have a home grow for medical patients. Why? Did anybody ever answer that question?
Oh,
Why?
that's a very good question.
What's the why?
No, nobody has. Worse yet, many people say you really should stop asking that because basically what you're doing is going to piss off Conway and Scutari, and we need them. We need that. And I'm saying I think more of them than you do then, because I don't think Nick Scutari, for everything I think about him, he's not going to do something to piss me off back just for the sake of pissing me off. He's
Right.
all about how does it affect me.
Right.
So it's not like if I piss him off, however I do, he's going to say, I'm not going to help cannabis patients now because Jim pissed me off. It's not going to happen.
Right.
He's going to do what he's going to do regardless. We don't even have the power to change things that way where we have no teeth, you know. So when we do, basically the only thing we can do to convince somebody to do something else is offer them consequences they don't want if they keep skirting the issue. And for me, it's clear, it's easy. Everybody can understand to keep blockade on information, meant to keep information from legislators. In whose world does that sound good? Well, okay, there's a lot of the world that probably does sound good right now. But I'm saying that Nick Scutari doesn't want to deal with home grow for patients now because he will be refusing to deal with home grow for adults. The outcry was pretty intense when it dawned on people who really didn't think this through. What do you mean it's not included? I read the initiative. I mean, the referendum. We don't have initiative, of course. I read the referendum. It didn't mention home grow. Therefore, it would be up to the legislature to define what is and isn't going to be included in this legalization, this broad legalization for adults. And Scutari's view is maybe accurate, even if it is myopic. It's not going to take money from the Treasury to the amount he would think. But yeah, people growing their own means they're not going to be spending a certain amount of money with the state that they might have otherwise, you know.
Big deal. You know what? Look at all the other states.
I get it, but big deal isn't an argument. You know, I've tried it. It doesn't work. So, and what should and shouldn't be doesn't matter. It's that this every journey begins with a single step, yada yada. So if you keep somebody from taking that first step, you're preventing an entire life's journey. That's how life works. That's how everything works, you know. I mean, so Nick Scutari knows that if he deals with patients fairly and lets this bill be heard, a lot of people are going to say for mature. No, we need a bigger canopy, and we need all sorts of stuff. They would love that fight because it would slow down the end product. I mean, that would, is not the way to go either. Nick Scutari doesn't want patients to get home grow because the sky won't fall. Now, the information that will lead to home grow once it's open, it's so benign of a thing. Yes, it's going to be able to get passed. Maybe 65-75% of all the information giving at a medical home grow hearing is going to apply to adult home grow. A lot of the questions that legislators would like people to have, so they have questions that they won't have answers to. It's just not that simple. That's just not that simple.
I have a question.
Adults are gonna be on him, and he doesn't want that. And
I had a spirited debate with Mike Hoffman last night for his class, and one of his questions were who, if somebody's growing 6 plants legally, and then they grow the 7th plant, which is marijuana. They're growing cannabis, and then the 7th plant is actually marijuana because it's illegal. What happens to that excess weed? Who comes to enforce the count? And what happens to the excess weed that they find on the patient?
Nobody comes to enforce. Nobody comes if there isn't a complaint, Michael Hoffman. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. It's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If nobody's complaining, why would you need a law?
Do we let them in?
Why do we ever need a law and nobody complains? It's like Doug Stanhope says there's laws of nature and laws of man. If you sit on a tack, you will bleed from the ass. Doesn't mean we need a law against tacks being on chairs, thumbtacks or whatever. It's like laws of man are when the laws of nature don't work. I don't know, but is he Nick Scutari's friend or something? Because that's the only thing Nick has, is he says, well, actually, it's kind of an enforcement issue. No, there's laws that how do you enforce stopping at a red light if there's nobody there to see you do it? How do you enforce it? You can't. Oh, you could put up cameras. Yeah. Well, that didn't even work. I mean, that caused more accidents by people jamming on their brakes for yellow lights, is why we don't have that going on, except for maybe in very unique intersections. So I think it's sort of like that,
But you have neighboring states that have home grow for medical patients.
Exactly.
So,
where is the sky falling there? What are that? You're exactly
nothing. Nobody cares.
Now we're on like tandem tracks here. Exactly. It's sort of like if there was something going on in other states that would be the kind of bad we wanted to avoid, that is what people would be telling us about home grow, why we shouldn't have it, because of what's going on somewhere else. And if nobody's jamming that down our throat, it's because it isn't there to jam. Right. It's you can't just have a smoking gun for this. You need to have the gun, the bullets, and all the evidence. And it is unenforceable. Rules about what you can and can't do in your own house are unenforceable. I mean, if you don't have eyes and ears in that house, laws shouldn't be made based on how enforceable they are. They should be made on what needs to be changed or needs to not be done. I mean, I understand, again, dividing lines, even ones I abide by, I can't actually stand up for or explain. But to keep patients in a situation where their lives are being disrupted, the financial degradation, in their lives for buying at dispensaries is untold. I mean, how much money they aren't spending somewhere else. And I would ask somebody like Michael Hoffman. To me, it's all about not being able to afford medicine. We don't like that in this country when people can't afford medicine. We have programs to help them and all that. But you got to define afford. I mean, afford it. If you go have cash in your hand and you buy something, doesn't mean you can afford it. It means you're taking that away from somewhere else in your life, and somewhere else in your life might avoid other members of a family that you don't want to take away stuff from them to get some. It's this whole whack-a-mole thing, and that's the question I would ask people. I went to dispensaries more often in the beginning than I needed to, because I liked making the trip, because there were lines there. And
Yeah.
I got to stand with other people, like an undercover boss or something. Nobody knew who I was, and I would stimulate conversations, and I would always ask about, do you have to give up or change anything in your life to make these purchases? And nobody said, "Nah, I'm pretty good. I'm fortunate. I don't have to change anything." That was never the answer. Never, never, never. And some of the answers, made me want to cry. That whole lives had to be rearranged because they couldn't grow weed. And for some people, it's flat out at the expense. It's maybe they can't grow it as well, and maybe it won't be the exact same kind of thing they would rather buy, but it's something, not nothing. And I want to know what we're being saved from. We're the outlier state. We're the one that went the other way. I think it's up to us to justify why, not for us as patients and advocates to tell them why. They need to tell us why and what we're being saved from. What is going on in another state that has medical home care for patients? What is going on there that you're saving us from in New Jersey?
Mm-hmm.
What do we have now that we're better off for than them? And then what do they have that they're better off for than us? And I maintain what they have is a better system of delivery to this medicine for patients by letting them deliver it to themselves, those that couldn't afford it. It's not like they're making medicine with a crucible and grinding stuff up. It's if they can throw seeds and it grows and that aids them, it shouldn't matter if you can't enforce it. And there's no complaints. There's obviously no need to.
It's so ridiculous. You go to someplace like Greenwood Lake. Half of Greenwood Lake is in Jersey, half is in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the half that's in Warwick, New York, there's a whole big weed farm.
Yeah.
Everybody rides by, and waves, and and then if you go down the road a piece and it says "Welcome to the state of New Jersey," it's a different ball game. And that's ridiculous.
Did you know? And I looked it up one time. Lefty might remember it. I mean, I put it out there. It's really fun that with Google Maps and everything else, you can get maps to people's property lines and everything. I mean, Google Maps. So there are towns that are in two states, New Jersey and New York. And in one, I found a house where the dividing line went through the house. Now it has an address, so it has, that all figured out as far as that. But physically, one person in a house would be in New York in this bedroom, and in this bedroom, the person's in a different state. So when their laws differ, see, how are you going to control a house? We can't have a house in two states because you couldn't enforce laws in that house. Blah, blah, blah. Who says that?
That's funny.
Where's the old white politician going? Very reprehensible.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, well,
I love it.
It's it's like standing on top of a bridge. You got state
Mhm.
lines, you know. You could blow the smoke across. Oh no, you can't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, somebody's saying it's unenforceable, so it shouldn't be done. That's a dividing line. I'll argue all day long and have fun doing it. You know, really. You know, I normally don't like. Okay, well that's like, because it's like, but it's not the same. You know, it's parallel. You know, but it's that logic. You know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to. It's kind of pisses me off, you know, because it happens a lot. You know, well, what about that? That's the same. Um, if there's no complaints, I see no need for enforcement, really. You know, but what if? Oh God, yeah. Well, but what if?
So like, is anybody going knocking on anybody's door to see if they're growing weed unless somebody calls the police? I mean, really?
Well, actually, now I think it's probably gotten down to that, because back in the day, it would be if the house didn't have the same amount of snow on the roof. If there's, you know, it'd be like maybe it's an attic grow system,
Hmm.
you know, and you could find ways to do that, and you know, watching equipment that could or would be grow equipment. You know, it's not like there's an Operation Green Merchant anymore where UPS says, okay, here's all the addresses of where we ship the grow lights to. And they go there like 6-8 weeks later expecting, you know, then they can have a certain amount of plants growing. And, you know, the cat and mouse game like that, I think really boils down to now it's if somebody's making a large income out of it, you know, uh, they would probably end up being investigated only because it would, you know, it'd be different.
Because somebody filed a
Yeah,
complaint.
there'd
Yeah,
be those outlier
right.
patient grows that give you pause, you know. And if it's like, well, then how do you feel about spot checks? And I'd say, well, I don't like spot checks for anything. I'll tell you that right now. But
Hmm.
how about you make an appointment and you go look? Well, they could hide them by then. Yeah, and you could fuck yourself. I mean, what can I say?
Hmm.
Oh, I guess I can't say that here. I can.
Instead of enforcement, they should come to your house and help you with your grow and give you helpful tips and maybe even,
Yeah.
you know, just help
Oh
you
yeah.
out. Helpful.
Good soil.
You know, this is what I want to see happen. Um, there's a lot of people that really like growing. They're proud of their expertise. They know they can help somebody have a superior product. And I'm wondering about pairing up people when patients have the right to do this. You know, first of all, if anybody with business sense that sells grow lights is going to realize
You can buy
that
them in Home Depot.
yeah,
So
but patients, I think mostly they know that they don't know how to do this. And I think there's a good amount of them that right away would say, sure, I'll take all the advice you can give me. But if I was going to go out and buy a grow light somewhere and it came with uh, a service, you know, I mean, are you able to FaceTime and take pictures? You know, in other words, you could call and say, I have an issue with my plants. Would you take a look? And then you'd turn around and somebody would say, ask you a question. You know, they could advise you. You could get it. You don't even need to make a physical house call, you know. But I'd like to think that at least a cottage industry develops that's not to take advantage of patients, but to help them with their grows. Because I don't know, I would love, if I knew enough about it, I would love to volunteer some of my time. If somebody said, would you go, you know, to this place, there's a patient that could use some help. And my God, to be able to do that, you know, just with my expertise to go in and then you get to help somebody. You know, I'd like to be that person. I'd want to be the one putting it together. And then, Lefty, how far away would they be from being able to make their own oil? You know,
Only takes a crock pot.
yeah.
A pound of weed and a video. Watch a video.
Yeah, and varying degrees of how to do it. Yeah, there's going to be ways, and well, my way's better, my way's better. Well, right now they're all better than my way. I mean, all of them, you know.
Did you see what in Oregon? You know, they had decriminalized.
Yeah, they're going to recriminalize.
Yeah, they're recriminalizing
What?
fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine.
Yeah.
Well, hello. Okay.
Yeah, you know, on the surface, I didn't know what to think for a split second, and then I realized this is what I'm telling people. Let's give Senator Scutari a credit for something that we can now throw back at him, is saying we don't want when making a law, we don't want perfection to be the enemy of the good. He said that all the time, saying, listen, no law is going to be perfect when you make it. That's why we have cleanup bills.
Mhm.
So if there's a problem, it gets a cleanup bill right away. But to be able to have something to point to, like, so you're telling me Oregon went this way, and now they're going to have what they would consider a cleanup bill or whatever.
Yeah, but they're
they're
not.
going to deal with it. But they didn't just not do it trying to guess what's going to happen. You can put your foot in and test the waters,
Yeah,
and then go the other way.
yeah.
You
And
can.
I think that's what they did, because
So-
then
so
what
that-
happened in Portland was, you know, everybody's shooting up and, you know, falling down on the sidewalk, you know. But you know, you take into account, well, look at the drugs they decriminalized. Okay, you know, there's always going to be that's a chance. That's a
Yeah.
chance to take.
Yeah.
You know, and so you try it, you see if it works. But at least, well, they didn't touch the cannabis, they didn't touch the psilocybin program. You know, so I guess that's something to be said. I don't know. I don't know.
I'd like to go back and hear the arguments on both sides, because I think there would be good arguments on both sides. I actually have to stop when I'm saying something like that because of the amount, not here, but it gives me a jolt. That there's always going to be a different point of view, and if I don't have a strong enough command of what I'm talking about, it's hard to talk about, because I can't be real qualified and definite even in how I feel, because, well, let's use home grow. I know about growing. I don't. I mean, I used to know enough to be able to grow something nice. And it's like, wow, Jim knows how to grow. No, I don't. I don't actually grow. I'm pretty much the same height all the time. It's helping something grow. You know, I mean, that's all you can do is help guide and, you know, and get it much right from the beginning, setting it up as you can. But the worries that patients might not be able to do it is not a good reason to not allow them to do it. And I would think people are being more than disingenuous if they were looking into changing the laws if somebody does grow their own. Because if you're going to try to keep people safe in your own mind by not allowing patient home grow, we should keep a person safe who decides that, yeah, I can't afford it, but I can't live like this, and they grow some and they get caught. I don't think that they should deserve the penalties that are in place now, that are the same penalties as always. You know, in other words, when we got our medical cannabis law passed in New Jersey, we didn't go changing laws for possession by patients who weren't registered or anything like that. You know, it's right now, if a patient grew just one plant, they're facing jail time. And well, I would never get it. No, they should never be subject to it.
Right.
I mean, they shouldn't have medicine taken away and then have to get it back. Like that's okay, you got it back.
Yeah.
It's the things the patient's already gone through, and it's not that I just don't see it. I'm not hearing reasons from any legislators like Senate President Scutari or others who would be against this. Is what are you saving us from? Answer me that. Because
Well, I think that was my question to you.
yeah, but then that's what I at the thing we just did in Trenton, where everybody had a little chance to speak. I love the fact that I wasn't having anything to say for a while because okay, this paragraph that was covered, I'm not going to add more. And what I was left with when I went to speak was exactly that. That was my whole point that day, not so long ago. Was that we need to make it put the burden of proof on them. We shouldn't be begging. We shouldn't be saying, here's how it works for me, as if that's going to do anything. Oh, it is good for you patients. Well, that's not what's getting it done. Is we're not the outliers. We're the norm. Patients, the ones who want to home grow, we're the norm. Ask any other state. Yeah, we're the outlier state. We went the wrong way when we became the first state to not have home grow. And it hasn't gotten better since. If anything, we owe other states an apology and help because they said, look, New Jersey didn't do it, so now we're not going to do it. I mean, it certainly went beyond us. And it needs to be justified. And we can't force a conversation. We never could. But
if this was a state that was, let's say in the Midwest, okay, there's a cultural difference. All right, so I can almost accept I don't want to. I can't even think of the word to use of the different cultural way of thinking of whether this is a good thing to do. I'm trying to put this into words that sound okay or not. And I can accept the fact that, well, culturally they're different. Okay. But Jersey's not culturally different than New York and California, than Oregon, than Colorado, than Washington. It's not.
That's why.
So there's not even that. There's not even. This is Jersey's not Children of the Corn. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't like it. It was scary.
Yeah, it was very scary.
It was. To me, it was.
I thought it was too.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's all the advantages that we're supposed to have aren't making the difference right now like that. Like we are surrounded by states doing something differently than us, or actually we're doing it differently than them. And all along, I seem to be in the minority with giving a crap about why this was pulled out of a bill that Scutari got passed, 6 plants in the Senate floor vote in 2009. So, the Senate got home grow passed within that bill, 2216. And why it got pulled out in the assembly, Herb Conway announced it. It wasn't his move to make, though. And there's one big piece of that puzzle missing. Who made that change? It didn't just drop out of the sky. Somebody had a petition. Could have been the governor, could have been a power broker in New Jersey through a legislator, the deals being made that we don't know about. And I do understand, you want to get something done, you got to deal with your colleagues and, okay, I'll help you with that. You help me with this. Now, all of a sudden, he's not helping me with that anymore. Well, then I'm not going to help him with this anymore. They got all that to smooth out and we don't know the particulars. But we got to realize we don't know the particulars, and that is the way they are doing business and the way they're going to do business. So rather than get caught in that's not right, it's okay, that's the way it is. I want to know what broke so we know how to fix it. And I've even gotten it down to, okay, don't tell us why it was pulled out. And yes, I know we got good guesses. It was John Coruscant. Okay, he's the top guess, that he for whatever reason. And we don't know what his reason was. It his reason or was it somebody else's? So hell, it's I want to know, and I see no reason why Assemblyman Conaway should not tell somebody, or Senator Scutari, because you can bet that when he found out you're doing what Senator Scutari asked governor for a pardon for John Wilson for growing 17 cannabis plants for his MS in 2008, and then 2009 when he was convicted. Senator Scutari and Senator Whelan both petitioned the governor to pardon John Wilson because this was going to be legal in New Jersey in a matter of months. In other words, he was saying, okay, it already got passed on the Senate floor. We're trying to hurry the assembly up so we can finish this up. He didn't know it was coming. Nick Scutari did not know it was coming. He went out on a limb saying this is going to happen. Then he got the rug pulled out from under him at the last minute. But you can be sure that Chairman Conaway, I was the chairman of the health committee, didn't say, I'm not going to tell you, Nick. It's just out and don't even ask why. That didn't happen. Nick Scutari knew. They went, and then we have certainly good video of Nick Scutari talking at that committee hearing. Scutari. Oh, yeah, by the way, that's good because in any song, you can rhyme with Scutari way more than Scutari. Unless you want Scutari on Safari, there's no way to write a song about him otherwise. So I wanted to clear that up. Scary Scutari, whatever,
Harry Scutari,
called me a fairy, whatever, it's yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. Of course I forgot where I was, but here I am.
He's got no friggin' berries.
Yeah. Anyway, it got pulled out, and so he knows, and Mayor Gusiora knows because it got pulled out from him too. But I deal with that in the. I'll mail you. I messaged Chris that I didn't have his email. I wanted to email it to him, so if he wanted to get to work on turning it into a petition, he would have it, and then we could go over, and see what you guys think of it. But yeah, dealt with that there, and Scutari had the rug pulled out from under him, and we don't know why. So what I wanted to know then, okay, don't tell us why, because I'm not going to agree with it, and I'm not going to understand it. Just tell me if whatever the problem was, does it still exist now? In other words, is there something we don't know about that we didn't know about then? And don't tell me what it is, but a good faith statement of no, that it doesn't exist. It's not relevant to today's discussion. I'd go with that just to get things done. And then I'm going to circle back, come up from behind them and say, that's not good enough after we get what we need. I'm also the one that doesn't like the idea people get a free pass. They can outrun the clock. They can do whatever they want to get in the way of things like this happening. And then when it does happen and the sky doesn't fall, where are they? I know where George D. Fernando is. He's at Princeton. And I hope he's there when all this is over, because I'm going back on I'm back tour, and I'm going to spread information where they are about their transgressions, unless they have a proper mea culpa, publicly.
Do you guys want to come on to want to do something on the Cannabis Nurses Network and rally my troops? I would love to have you both come on.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Okay. I'm
sorry, did we say yeah at the exact same time?
Yeah, you did. You know what? And Lefty doesn't answer me like when I text him. I He's
tried to.
very bad with answering me.
I am.
You really are. So,
But you get to say that. And with Lefty, that's one of his strong suits. I tell people, it's
well,
like,
I love him. I
yeah,
love him. You know, he's
it's like
cool.
people. I've seen people, the argument like, well, you're an asshole. Yeah, I know I am, but why are you saying that? With an honest, I want to understand why you said that. Time a guy came.
This is what I want you both to.
How can we help?
Knock your heads together and give me a date and give me a time, and I'll do the rest. And all you have to do is just pop on to. We could do it with this StreamYard.
This would be great.
You like this better than
and then
the other.
we like to
try. We've got a lot of nurses, and they're into this stuff. They really are. They're really like they really are soldiers. They're really good. I have to give it to them. When we started this whole thing, I didn't know where it was going to go, and I think because of the generational differences, it's really a plus. I may make poke fun at it here and there, but the reality part is they're serious. I'm not that serious of a person anymore. I don't know if I ever was anyway, but that's beside the point. But really, they'll have something to gnaw on. They'll have something to go after.
Well, if they're nurses who are concerned about cannabis issues and they're knowledgeable,
and they're good, and they're
a potential resource that's going unused if they don't have direction. And that's something maybe that we could help provide. Like, how could they help improve this situation, and other situations
right now, what we're really, we're really just focusing on a lot of education, blah blah blah, but we already know we got kicked to the end of the line, with cannabis. So
we're usually looking for people that want to be involved in helping change.
And this is what the Cannabis Nurses Network is about. It's about change, and it's about the patients. It's about the patients.
Yeah. Well, and what I always say, I always say a lot of things because I talk too much too. Well, actually, I think I talk too much more than you talk too much. But
I think we both talk too much.
Yeah. Well, I say it's because I have a lot to say,
And I like to hear myself.
Don't hold me at fault for having a lot to say that's pertinent.
Last night when I talked to Mike, he was playing devil's advocate because we've had this debate before, and I already won the debate with him before. I won him over. But he still has those points to make because some people still make these points. And here's another one. Caregivers, if you're growing cannabis for somebody else, what are your responsibilities as far as testing and making sure your patient or patients, say you're growing for 20 people in New Jersey. Maybe that's a future program.
Well, in New Jersey, they wouldn't let one person do that because we're New Jersey. We don't let that common sense sort of thing happen. But
that happens in other states.
It's a fair question. That's a fair devil's advocate question, would you say?
Who's responsible for the testing of that, and say something's wrong, moldy with that cannabis? What's the questions?
Yeah, well, if the person growing it should be the one able to identify it and know how to. So I would say the responsibility would to be knowledgeable about what you're doing, so you can recognize the problems. And then how do you qualify? Then you have to pass some sort of training.
That's when you go and you take from what the other states have already done.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all.
What are they doing
there?
That's always a good. It's always a good answer, and to make very clear to people when you say that, it's you don't have to go there in person. You don't have to smell the roses. You can see them. You can't touch them. You can't smell them, but you can see and hear anything you need to get your questions answered. As Lefty May No Nick's Guitar likes to refer to going to Colorado to find things out. I'm like, Jesus, man, you don't have to go there to find anything.
No.
You don't. He's just trying to get a free trip on
Right.
on my dime, you know?
Yeah.
Hell, if I paid taxes, I'd be an angry taxpayer.
I still pay taxes.
I'm too poor.
Poor thing.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. No, I'm more content. You know, I haven't had a bank account or credit cards or anything. 17 years, maybe something like that.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's like that line in Bug from Fish. Nothing I see can be taken from me. You know,
Yeah.
it's mine. It's all mine. If I got it, I'm not making payments on it.
Mhm.
Of course, my phone's in my brother's name. I almost don't exist as a real person. See, I had this time. I didn't work on the books a lot when I was married to Cheryl because every last freaking penny counted, you know.
Mhm.
And I knew I didn't care about the implications later in
Right.
my life. I just didn't care. So I worked 9 and 3/4. 39 3/4 quarters. You got to work 10 years to get Social Security, and I worked 9 3/4 years. So I didn't work long enough to get Social Security. Now the irony is, of course, I'm Cheryl's surviving spouse.
So you get hers.
I get hers, but her Social Security was brought about by work she did in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
So like how much do you think it is? It's a little tiny bit. But you know, I made my bed and I'm lying in it. I got, you know, and I'd do it the same way again if I had to. So I'm content.
Social Security doesn't go up that high anyway, so you're not really missing out on any.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, I really want you guys to really put your heads together and just give me a date and time. Okay.
I'm gonna be good with whatever fits Lefty's schedule because he's got a schedule and I don't.
If you want to do it here on the podcast, it's every Thursday. So any Thursday night would be perfect.
But I want to put you on the network.
Okay. How do we do that? I can probably do that.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you're the podcast guy. All right. You have to answer me when I text you, though.
I was on the road today. I was actually on the road, and
well, what about the other times I've texted you?
You know what? I'm not getting my texts because, you know, the mayor of Englishtown, Dan Francisco, I've been texting him, and he's texting me back, and he's like, "You're not answering my texts," and I'm like, "I'm not getting your texts."
Really?
He's going to screenshot what's going on because he's like, "You're answering me, but you're not answering me like you're talking to me," because I'm sending him links and I'm trying to. It's really weird. So something's wrong with my phone. I think maybe too. I don't know what's going on here.
Okay.
That might be the issue because I did get your text, your last text. That's
when
weird.
I said I'm not home. I'm not home.
That's crazy. Yeah, because now you and Dan are both telling me the same thing. And it could be the CIA, as far as I know.
Could be.
Probably.
Could be. You know, the New York City subway system is under martial law right now.
Well, it's very scary down there. And now probably it's even
That
scarier.
is scary. That's 10 minutes from me.
Oh.
What I missed what you said.
The New York City subway system is under martial law. They have the National Guard there. They have state troopers, and that's it. They're there. So today, I was listening to something, and I heard somebody in the city say something about, "Oh, it's not that bad." Well, you know what? You probably don't take the subways. Yeah, it is that bad down there. You know, it's creepy down there. When I worked in the city, I never took the subways. I'd rather walk.
Subway was coming into the terminal, and the conductor had his head out the window looking to make sure, just looking, and somebody slashed his face. He had like 30 stitches on his face.
Yeah.
No purpose, no meaning, just somebody wanted to slash him and run.
Yeah. It's like the OK Corral there. You know, you don't even want to go in this city.
Sheesh.
Anyway, yeah. You know, and that's just like a little bit too close to me right now. So that's it's kind of creepy. Really creepy. All right, so you're gonna straighten out your phone, and you know what? I can send you my email. You could message me on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm all over social media, Instagram. I'm everywhere.
Okay. Tom wants to protest outside Scuteri's favorite restaurant. That's funny.
What restaurant is that?
I don't know. Let's find out.
I'll go. I would go.
That's
Outside his favorite restaurant. Will I get him kicked out?
Oh man.
I mean, think about it. If you owned a restaurant and there were protests because one guy ate there, maybe he shouldn't eat there.
It
You
would
know,
bring the booze,
but even so,
but it would bring the media. That's what you want. You want to
Well-
bring media, right?
I see it being a fun thing, but you know, I look right to. I don't know, how does it look? I don't know.
How
wouldn't-
does it look? How does it
Yeah.
look when you make people
Well-
suffer and die waiting for home grow? The reason why
Well-
we got into this was for sick and suffering people, and we're still here. They legalized cannabis, and we're still here fighting for patients because we got stepped over. And I'm frustrated, so I'm ready to go to his favorite hot dog place. Mustard, onions, and lefty. Get a
His
big toast.
favorite hot dog place.
Let's go to his favorite hot dog place. Let's go to his favorite laundromat, his gas station he goes to. We'll go there.
It will be like Fight Club, you know, working there and they won't know, you know. You'll be serving him pizza with your part-time job.
Can I help you?
Lefty?
Yeah, everywhere.
No, yeah, it's
Go on, Mimi. I'm sorry, I'm talking to my dog. Go.
Oh, Mimi. Where's Mimi?
She's going outside.
Oh, Mimi.
She's going outside. Jay's taking her out.
I have a cat named Fufu. Why do we do that with our names? Mimi, Fufu, Lulu.
I don't know.
Why do we do this?
I'll be Boo Boo. B-U. No, you know.
Woo-woo.
Yeah,
We always do this with our pets. We give them little cute names.
Yep.
do.
Boofy.
Boofy.
I had a dog named Fabio.
Fabio. Oh, I just played back my sidewalk psych exam, and the lady that came up to the sergeant fabricator, she called him Fabs. Hey, Fab. Hi, Fab. What's going on here? He's like, oh, we got this guy in a wheelchair here doing laps. Oh, well, we don't need lights. Bear, what did she say? We don't need lights because it'll slow everybody down in Bayonne.
Yeah, we're slow the traffic up. Nobody be going nowhere.
Yeah, nobody be going nowhere, she says. I should play the video. It's hilarious. I just got it back from the cops today. Awesome video.
Is that where you are right now in Bayonne?
I'm in Bayonne, yeah.
That's a sucky ride from here.
It's not
I have to
sucky.
tell you
Once
this.
you get here, it's like the Wizard of Oz
Once-
here. It's like
Once
beautiful.
I get there.
it's paved with rainbows, and Bayonne's beautiful.
I told you when it starts to get a little bit lighter, then I'll make the ride.
Yeah, come here. You can sit here with us, play cars. We pass joints with the cars here. It's really fun. Jim, you got to do this with us. It's a lot of fun. We pass joints in the car. And weed.
All right.
It's a lot of fun. Lots of weed.
Jim, you and I will make a date with Lefty and we'll go to Bayonne. Only if I get to play with that ambulance.
This ambulance is great. McCabe ambulance. Yes, sir. And it opens up in the back. So cool.
Very nice.
I love this thing.
Nice
So
bus.
fancy.
What's the parking situation where you live?
Where I live?
No, Lefty. I mean, like if I go to visit you, the one thing I don't like is where do I park?
You
Oh,
park,
you gotta
on the
find the
street.
space. No, I don't.
Park on the street. Parallel parking.
Maybe you guys should come here. I have covered parking.
Yeah, I want to come see this little diorama.
Yeah, we brought this to a council meeting to talk about how we needed a light at 49th and Broadway. This is 49th and Broadway in Bayonne, this intersection.
You know, I'll tell you, really, if there's an accident at that intersection and it goes to court, you ought to be able to rent that out to a lawyer, you know? I mean, because they always have the diagram in court, you know, like a little whiteboard diagram, and people do that, or you have automobiles that stick to it or whatever. But you got 3D here, you know?
How close are you to how close are you to the water? How close are you, you know, like over by Jersey City where they fixed it all up?
We are a peninsula right below Jersey City.
Yeah,
We're
no.
surrounded by water. We are the beginning of the Jersey Shore. Thank you very
Right.
much.
Yeah, that 609 area code we used to talk
My
about.
grandma swam in this water. Just saying. I would do it today too.
Okay. I told you what we used to say about your area code.
What?
That was the Mason-Dixon line. That was it.
Which Mason?
Well, we have a lot of chromium. We have a lot of chromium here in Bayonne that they cleaned up. You know how they clean up chromium?
No.
They take 2 feet of topsoil and they put it in an EPA site. So 2 feet and an inch is fine, chromium, but 2 feet, no. So they cut 2 feet out, and anything that's seeped into the water, still seeped. That's how they clean up chromium in Bayonne.
Interesting.
They should plant hemp and cannabis.
Yeah, but the measurement's based on a guy's foot from 2,000 years ago or something. You know, I mean, that depends on how big the guy's foot was. If you had bigger feet, we'd be better off.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, I was a deck builder. I had to dig holes 3 feet deep and 1 foot wide. Actually, it'd be 3 foot deep because they don't pluralize feet when they measure tradesmen. You know, 6 foot by 1 foot. And I calculate from all the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of holes, not 34 inches, 36. But there's a solid rock down there. I don't know. I'll have to see if that'll be okay. It's below the freeze line. You know, it's always an estimate. And, you know, when you're dealing with area of a circle, you have a 12-inch circle. It's a lot more than 16 inches is almost where it doubles rather than 40% more. So it makes a big difference. And I forget how many telephone pole lengths of extra hole, because some guy's foot, if it was like 11 inches, it would have saved me a lot of hole digging. And I find that absurd. I just don't like estimates. I was real proud to read quite a while ago, somewhere a mountain was surveyed very accurately, and it was exactly 2,000 feet. And they said it was 1,997 feet because people would believe that. And I thought, well, they'll believe it. But it's not true. It says yes, but with an estimate, they think you just estimated. But I understood, you know, it's 1 foot, feet. I want computations. You know, somebody says, okay, and after you eat, you got to wait 3 hours and 47 minutes at least. That sounds like somebody did some work. You did
not 46, not 48.
Yeah. Well, it's a guideline, but it would sound like it meant something. Did you know Heinz 57 had over 70 items when they called it Heinz 57? They downplayed it. It's focus groups, you know.
Hey, Dan Francisco, how you doing, buddy? How are you? Dan is here. He'll be with us in a second. He's the mayor of Englishtown, and I used to live in Old Bridge, and I always thought that Englishtown auction was part of Englishtown, but it wasn't, and that's so funny because I used to. I had a booth where I had hemp. Jim, you remember Pete Christopher? Back in the day, he gave me a bunch of hemp granola and CMMNJ stuff and all kinds of stuff to stand out there. And the prosecutor's office came out and they were taking the granola, and it was just loose granola from hemp-based. It was no THC, but that was before cameras too. So that would be fun today.
Yeah, because you could tell them there's THC in it. You're just estimating, you know.
It would be nice to have a booth at Englishtown again, though.
Englishtown is by Tom's River, right?
No.
Englishtown, no, it's by
What's it called?
Monroe, Jamesburg, East Brunswick.
Oh yeah, that the real boom hickey booms.
Hey, you guys there?
Hey, Dan. How are
Hi,
you?
Joe.
How's it
I'm
going? For
so-
some reason, I'm hearing like music play through. Is that from you guys?
No.
Not here.
I think
You know
maybe
what?
it might be.
Let me disconnect and get back on because it's not coming through here. I hear you guys through here, but some kind of music is playing back. So let me just disconnect and I'll jump right back in.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I used to love going to Englishtown auction, flea market, whatever. It's huge.
Here we go. Yeah, no, there's I hear some background noise, but it's not really music. I think it's Jim's TV. Is there a TV on or something?
No. I mean, I have to listen, and I don't really hear it. It's not music right now. It would
Yeah.
sound like it's like
It was louder before. It's actually not that bad now.
I don't hear any.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Maybe he had something else going on there. But yeah, he's the mayor of Englishtown. I want to pick his brain about a few things. He give you a quick rundown. He his town was against cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
and he ran for mayor to make sure that cannabis became part of the story in that town. And all the council people are now for it. And I believe they're going to open up or have opened up some places. I'm not sure yet. We have to ask them. But,
Were you at one of their council meetings back? You know.
I don't think we ever
In other
went.
words,
maybe.
was there the meeting to ban cannabis businesses from English? And you know,
I have to look it up.
You know,
I have to look that one up. Let's see.
Did they have that down there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
they did.
when you say they were against it, it's like, well, you get to vote against it as individuals. I don't think towns get to vote on anything. So when you say, you know, we're against it, I would assume it was from having businesses within the township of that nature.
There we go. I'm all good now.
Oh, good.
Sorry about that.
I'm trying to see if we were ever to Englishtown.
So Englishtown is in western Monmouth County. It's a very, very small half square mile borough that's wholly within Manalapan Township. But we're not terribly far, very close to Monroe to the west, Old Bridge to the north, outside of Manalapan, Marlborough somewhat to the east, Jackson Millstone to the south. So, but we're basically in Manalapan. We're kind of intertwined with Manalapan and their, you know, a lot of their public services. We share a school district with them. We share a couple of other services. But we are the original colonial downtown that served as the commercial hub in this entire Central Jersey region back, you know, in the 1700s. So there's a lot of history here. We have buildings here that predate the nation. The Continental Army stayed in what is now referred to as the Village Inn, and springboard their offense into the Battle of Monmouth, which was fought a couple miles away in a land that is directly on the border of Freehold and Manalapan Township. So we're steeped in history. And it should be, and I hope to make it a breeding ground for the liberty movement, hopefully with our influence.
Well, I'm up in Hackensack. You know where that is?
I do. I lived briefly in Saddlebrook. My wife's from Bergen County, so I know Hackensack relatively well. Yeah.
Okay. Your wife grew up in Bergen County?
Yep. She's from Ridgewood originally.
Oh, Ritzy Ridgewood. Yeah, that's a really nice town.
Oh,
yeah. They haven't been there for years, but I'm from Manalapan. Well, my parents are immigrants from Portugal, so they came here in the 80s. I was born here, but English was my second language because they lived in Newark, so we didn't really have to speak English per se. My parents both obviously
You
speak
just had
English.
to speak Newark.
You had to speak in the
No.
Ironbound. You had to speak Portuguese pretty much, and you got by.
Yeah.
You still could today, but yeah, I
Yeah,
lived
I
there.
worked in Newark for a
Yeah.
long time. I worked
Yeah,
at UMDNJ and I worked at Newark Beth.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah,
Yes.
they were great places to work.
Yeah, I left there very young. You know, my parents took me out of there when I was 2 or 3. We came to Manalapan, and they still live in the house that I grew up most of my life in. Manalapan, blocks away from where I live now. And Englishtown is right in that northwestern corner of Manalapan.
Yeah, we used to always go to Ironbound for the Portuguese food.
Oh, yeah.
Spanish Tavern. That they're still there. They're still really good.
Tons of good restaurants there. We still
Really
go up there
good
very
restaurants.
often.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked at UMDNJ in the ER. For about 6 years. Then I worked at Newark Beth. I was the administrator for emergency services for pediatric and adults. Until one night, you know what? I was watching the lights on flash, because at nighttime they put the lights on flash so you don't stop at the light and get shot. And I said, why am I still working here? That was my awakening.
Did you get your carry license when the laws switched over last year?
No, I was living in New York last year.
Okay. Well, New York is the source of, they're the genesis of that change. The Supreme Court case came out of New York, Nisper v. Bruin. So, yeah, you can. There's a lot of progress in that space in the last couple of years. Today, 2, not 1, but 2 more states passed constitutional carry. I think it was South Carolina and Louisiana. I could be quoting the wrong ones, but it's up to either 28 or 27 states now. So more than half of the country has constitutional carry, whereas as recently as about the late 80s, there was 1. So
that doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy.
It might not be your bag, but for me, I believe it to be a big victory for natural rights.
My husband was on the Bergen County SWAT team, and I came from like a long line of hunters and whatnot. My family came from Italy, so everybody carried a gun. But no, I'm not from. I worked the knife and gun clubs. That's what I did. I was a trauma nurse, so no, I'm not a fan.
Got you. Well, we could have a good discussion about that.
We will.
I'm a big activist in the firearms rights space. I'm actually a litigant in federal court against the state of New Jersey.
My husband will love you.
Yeah, we should talk.
There's good questions I have, because how do I become a firearms owner if I'm a medical cannabis patient? I can't. But
you actually have to commit perjury in order to do so, because one of the questions on what there used to be 2 forms delineated. It was STS, let me make sure I get this right, STS 33 and SP 66. I believe those were the 2 forms, and I believe the 33 form was the background check and SP was the mental health. Somebody can fact check me on that. And there are a succession of questions that I'm paraphrasing are like, have you ever plotted to overthrow the government? Are you drunk? Are you a user of any, addicted or dependent to any substances? Or have you ever used any substances that are illegal? And so for that reason, lots of firearm owners in New Jersey that go through the legal process are either frightened to answer those questions or will not walk into a dispensary, because as you guys know, the retail dispensaries require you to swipe your driver's license, and it takes a record of everyone that goes in. So it's a paradox, because you're inherently admitting I'm walking into a place where I'm going to purchase a federally illegal product, while I'm simultaneously assuming you're a gun owner and you've answered these questions before. You're admitting to breaking federal law. So there's going to be problems with this. Someone's going to be a guinea pig in some kind of case about this eventually.
Dan, back up a minute, because you just said something about walking into a dispensary and you have to swipe your driver's license in the state of New Jersey.
That's my understanding, that you must, before you can even walk into the retail space, you must show your driver's license and it gets swiped into a computer. Don't quote me. I believe that is mandated by the CRC in New Jersey for all retail shops.
Okay.
How does that make you feel?
Not in Bergen County and not in Hudson County.
No, I have not. I'm saying this openly. I've never bought anything at a retail store in New Jersey, so I'll put that out there publicly. I was never able to walk into.
I have.
I've been at a couple of them to see them because we were researching it when we were I've always been a fan of complete legalization, just to clear the air. I don't think there should be any laws, around cannabis. So let's be clear about that. But when it was when it was the laws changed in 2021 in the state of New Jersey, they gave the municipalities a certain amount of time to respond to the state, legalization, and they had to either ban and regulate or and allow or outwardly ban the substance and the 6 types of licenses. And if they failed to do so by this arbitrary date, which I believe was August 21, if I'm not mistaken, it would automatically be grandfathered as a yes for all of them. So we were encouraged by, lobbyists and people that came, advocates in the industry, to go visit, other places that were at that point medical facilities. I think I visited 3 or 4 of them. I did not go into them, but in the lobby, you had to swipe your license. And because of that, I haven't gone into it. So that is a conundrum for a lot of firearm owners that also may be, users of the product.
If only there was an organization that would help patients who would like to own a firearm, but they're a medical cannabis patient. If only there was a national organization that would stick up for them, we would all be better off. But apparently nobody cares to do that. In other words, there's a lot of motion, like you say, in the changing of law and gun ownership and carry laws, but the laws aren't changing for cannabis patients who have to swipe their card if they do want to use a dispensary. There's no help from any gun rights organizations to help advocate for change in that area.
Well, the police union is helping right now because in Jersey City, there's a lawsuit with those officers trying to get their jobs back, right?
Correct.
I'm talking about maybe like a National Rifle Association. They don't seem to have an interest in doing this, and yet it's right up their alley. Patients need them to help.
So there is an organization that sponsored my case. They're the best, unequivocally, hands down, the best natural rights group in the country. Their name is the FPC, the Firearms Policy Coalition. You can look them up. They're exploding in numbers. I know the people that work there. They're great people. They sponsored my case. I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't work for them and I don't represent them, so I'm not speaking on their behalf. I don't know what they're working on, but I can tell you, knowing them and their philosophy, they 100% would support a case in that space. If I had to guess, they may even already be pursuing one.
I'm sorry, Dan. What's the name of Firearms Policy?
Firearms Policy Coalition, FPC.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you.
that it'll certainly be worth reaching out to them because it's that law really is a conundrum for patients, and I'm all about cannabis patients. I mean, for me, everything stems from there outward rather than towards. So in this regard, it seems to me that some patients would even need more protection. I was married to a woman with multiple sclerosis, and in Oklahoma in 1986, got her a little 25 just to have in her lap because in Oklahoma, she could get out and about by herself, but she couldn't protect herself if somebody, if there was a problem. And but it was just that easy in Oklahoma. You could just walk into a pawn shop and buy a brand new one real cheap. But now somebody that really would just want to have a gun on them because they physically were going to be at a disadvantage because of being a patient should be more allowed to have one rather than less allowed for cannabis use. And there's no way you can't say put on there, do you drink? Because to me the worst thing is somebody in possession of a firearm that's highly inebriated. And, that's more of a comment about alcohol than anything. I'm one of those, I suppose I would be considered somebody who supports a lot of gun rights. I'm not, I don't like dividing lines on anything, so I don't even, my opinion doesn't count. But I do see a need for that to be more of an issue. A lot of people don't know that. It's a question we get all the time, being a medical cannabis advocate. And the thing is you better have a gun before you become a patient, because you certainly won't be able to buy one without lying afterwards. And I don't know.
Yeah, there's absolutely going to become case law on this eventually. If I had to guess, they're probably working on something as we speak. I know, again, I don't speak for them, but I know their philosophy enough to assert that I know they would believe that is a virtuous pursuit, right? Yeah. To say that just because someone consumes a particular product, that they are no less of a human and they don't deserve to have any natural rights denied or restricted in any capacity. So I wouldn't be surprised if this happens. You're absolutely right. There is a case right now in Jersey City with Mayor Fulop, because the police department there, they had a cop that lost their job. And they did change the law where now law enforcement officers can consume lawfully in New Jersey.
Yeah.
In New Jersey. So yeah, things are going to change. This is all new. This is all virgin territory, and this is you got to remember, like, for a lot of people, that there's still like this reefer madness mentality. To them, this is all brand new. To people like us, we may either be tolerant or more understanding of the culture, but a lot of people aren't. So there's going to be a catch-up period, and eventually I think there will be a normalization process. It's funny because in the forms, the only one it explicitly says is, "Are you a drunk?" It might even say habitual drunk. It might be the nomenclature that it uses. And I wouldn't be, it does say something about being addicted to substances or illegal drugs or something like that. So I have a feeling that's going to probably be rewarded at some point. Someone's going to be a guinea pig. It's bound to happen at some point.
Dan, I'm sorry, Jim.
I was just going to say, I facetiously, that it would be nice if they added one more question to the form, is, do you lie on questionnaires like this? because that's what's going on. It's like, no,
Dan, I have a question. So if somebody gets a DUI in the state of New Jersey, right? Does that affect? That's a felon, isn't it? Is it?
I don't believe so. I don't think it's a felony. I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice, but I don't believe it is.
Okay, but do you know, like let's say somebody gets a DUI, like could they legitimately still go and buy a firearm?
So whether let's reverse engineer this. I don't think it's a felony, but I'm not sure. But what I can tell you is felons are prohibited from buying guns.
Yeah, I think I knew that. And
I think they can't vote. There's like a succession of things they lose the right to do. So
yeah, correct.
They are not misdemeanors. Okay, felons, no. That's how it works. I actually also think that's a travesty. I don't think that philosophy should exist either. To me, the notion that you commit whatever crime, you pick it. There's lots of white collar felonies. Felonies that are not violent in nature and that are procedural or whatever. Just because you commit a crime and you're adjudicated guilty and you fulfill your punishment, you do time in prison, you pay back restitution, you do community service, whatever it is that you're required to do. And if you do all of that, to me, if you're reintroduced back in society and you exist as a free human, to say that you then have certain natural rights denied at that point, to me, is saying that person is less of a human than everybody else.
Is owning a firearm a natural right?
Well, depends who you ask. To me, it is. To some people, they'd say no. That's a great conversation to have, right?
Yeah.
I think it is. I think I think I own my body. I think I own my life. I don't think you own it, right? I don't think my neighbor owns it. I think I do. And the seminal question when people argue about firearms rights is we get focused on whether I have a right or how much is okay. And I like to pivot away from that because the functional question is who has the monopoly on violence in our society? What is the only entity that is permitted to use legal violence?
Yeah.
No, I'm asking you. Who do you?
Law enforcement.
Right, the state, right, the government.
Right.
They're the only ones allowed to use legal violence. In theory, in the mission to protect you, right? That's the logic, right? We agree to give power to the state. We give them resources, and we say, hey, we're going to let you enforce rules that we supposedly democratically come up with, and you will protect us, right? However, that's the issue because the U.S. district courts and the Supreme Court multiple times have adjudicated that the police have no legal duty to protect you, no legal duty to provide individualized protection. So it's a farce that we give up our sovereignty to the government or the police and say, you get the monopoly on violence, you get all the weapons, you get to decide whether I even can have a gun. But then at the same time, when I call you to help me because I'm being raped, burgled, robbed, whatever, the police can choose not to come because they think it's dangerous. They cannot come because there's simply not enough cops. They could not come because they think my house is a dangerous scene and they want to wait outside. Case in point, Uvalde school shooting, Parkland school shooting. All of this legal history is there. The government is never liable if they fail to protect you. So that's the functional question. To me, it's lunacy to both say, I'm going to agree to restrict myself and what I can use to protect myself and give up my sovereignty to an indifferent third party that has no compulsion to help me and whom I cannot fire or exchange for another service. I can't fire my police department because I don't like the service. I can't say, well, I called the cops one time and they didn't stop a rape in my house, so I'd like to fire that police department and hire another one. That's not possible. So
Right.
That's the real seminal question, right? When people ask, like, do I have the right to protect myself? Yes. Like, in fact, no one has an interest in protecting me but me. There's no one with any legal compulsion to help me. So if I don't protect myself, who will? That's really the bigger question. Certainly not the government.
I like a good guy with a gun. They just had a church shooting, and a good guy with a gun, I think, took out the shooter at a church,
The
right?
one in Texas.
Texas, yeah.
That was a few years ago, and there was one in Indiana with a young kid. I mean, if any of you are shooters or have shot guns before, shooting a handgun is wildly difficult, right? Shooting at any sort of distance with stress, movement, anything, like it's a damn near miracle to tag someone with a firearm. It's like we watch too much Hollywood and like Walking Dead where people go headshot, like that's not real life, right? So these scenarios where, you know, these people in a church can like pick someone off in the head when someone's in front of them, that's like almost an act of God. It's an unbelievable talent to be able to do that. The New York City Police Department, of all the rounds they discharged from their weapons, the number is somewhere around 30 to 35% actually hit their target. So it's people live in this like fantasy that they think it's very easy. If something happens, I just shoot them and stop somebody. That's not the case. It's much more complicated than that. And it takes a lot of skill to be able to tag someone with a firearm.
The real worry seems to me would be all the time somebody misses. Where's that bullet end up in somebody that didn't deserve it, or a wall, or what? So, you know, it's when to and when not to. And I think people worry about people overreacting or accidents happening like I didn't know it was you coming through my door, things like that. Yet I find this a very interesting conversation because I tend to see merit often from both sides, and it leaves me in a position to not know what to think. So I just want to say, good conversation. You know, it didn't really necessarily clear up anything in my head, but I like knowing a conversation like this can happen, though.
So Jim, that's a great jumping point, right? I hear where you're coming from. I'm worried about the chaos that might ensue or people misusing their weapon, right? My retort to that would be Breonna Taylor. What's his name? Daniel Shaver in Arizona. There was a gentleman in Maryland whose name escapes me. I mean, we don't really report publicly. It's not a common thing that police officers accidentally kill the wrong person every day, right? So this isn't a function of like, if people have guns, they will accidentally kill people. You're describing the status quo, except the only people doing it right now tend to be the only people doing that accidentally, statistically right now, are state agents, right? Are cops. So yes, in these states where people are not, where there's not a gun culture, states like New Jersey, where they're typically progressive and anti-gun, that is like a logical conclusion they come to. But if you really like follow, if you go on the internet and follow like how many times a warrant is served on an apartment complex and a SWAT team will raid the wrong house and shoot an innocent person, that is like a sadly common thing.
It's surprising. Yeah.
My friend lives in Patterson, and his daughter, Mary Taylor, was shot in a drive-by shooting, standing right in front of her house last year. Just standing in front of her house. The police were given a stand-down order by the Attorney General in Patterson to stand down and not do any police chases. So they allowed this car to shoot up the neighborhood and then take off, and there was no repercussions.
It's people like they live in this fantasy. Yeah, they live in this fantasy that like, oh, they'll help you. They have no duty to help you. They have no interest in helping you. Think about, put yourself. Look, this is what any firearms instructor will tell you when you go to take a carry course. They will tell you if you're in a dangerous situation and there's someone with a knife 50 feet that way in a mall and you have a firearm, do you know what the firearm instructor will tell you you should do? They will tell you to turn around and run the other way. They don't tell you to go be a cowboy and start trying to shoot the guy from 50 feet away. They tell you to retreat, right? They typically don't suggest you engage the target, not only because it's dangerous, but because it's legally perilous in New Jersey. So the police have, again, look at Parkland. There was an officer there. Do you remember the officer driving the golf cart who everybody got mad at him because he didn't go in the building? I don't know if you guys recall that.
No.
So there was, if you Google Parkland golf cart, if you search that, there was an officer who like was supposed to go into the building, and instead he just kept like driving around aimlessly in this golf cart. Well, they put him on administrative leave and suspended him because they were going to try to charge him with something. And then the like state prosecutors or attorney general, I don't know what level it was at, they dropped all the charges because they have no duty to go throw and risk their life in the building. They're not compelled to do that by multiple case law. Warren versus DC in 1981 District Court of Appeals was a rape case. They didn't help the rape victims. They weren't adjudicated guilty for not helping them. The Castle Rock v. Gonzalez 2005 Supreme Court case, that was an abduction from a divorced parent. A father abducted his kids and murdered them. There was a restraining order against the father. The mother won in court, suing the town of Castle Rock in Colorado, and then the town appealed it up the federal system to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court overturned it and said the police have no duty to enforce social compacts like restraining orders. So this is the type of civics education that Americans are ignorant to, right? You can go get a restraining order. Do you know what that means? shit.
Nothing.
It doesn't mean
Means
anything.
nothing.
Shit. It's worth shit. That's what it's worth. And if they kill you while you have a restraining order, guess what? The cops are not liable for it. It means jack shit. So it's important. Like, that's why when people go, well, why should I be able to have a gun? Because no one else has to protect me. But I'm forced at gunpoint to give them my money, but then they don't have to protect me. So to me, the notion of restricting anything I can own is insane, especially when municipal and state police departments and county sheriff's departments are militarized out the wazoo. They have riot equipment, high impact weapons, Bearcats, tactical vehicles. They have things that concussive weapons, smoke, things that they have no business having. They're there to use them against you. Not to necessarily help you, but to go raid the wrong house potentially and shoot an innocent person, which often happens. So, you cannot rely on that. They may help you. And this is not to say that they're all bad people, right? I'm just talking about a legal reality, right? That they will not be in trouble if you call 911 because you're being robbed and they literally park in your driveway as the robber is going room to room stealing all your jewelry. And if the cop literally opens the door for the robber and goes like this and says, go ahead and run away, you can't sue the cop after. You can, but you'll lose because of the case law.
Interesting.
Uvalde, same thing. Uvalde was abhorrent. They made a line outside of the building, refused to go in and engage the shooter, and then arrested the parents who tried to break the police line to go in to save their own kids. That is the most abhorrent thing I can possibly imagine. Imagine your child is in a building with an active shooter, and you're being handcuffed for trying to go help your daughter. That to me is mental.
Yeah,
None of those officers were charged. None of them were held liable. They were all protected.
Qualified immunity.
Yep,
Learned about
that's
that.
Yet another aspect. They can say as long as they're not aware of the law, they're not liable for not following it in some capacity.
What happened to ignorance is no excuse.
Well, that's for you, just
Yeah,
not for state agents. You can't be ignorant. They can.
Yeah, well, that's why we lefties had this ignorance is no excuse. It's no excuse for the law, because
Right.
I, would be like, oh, I'm a 17-year-old driver. I make a mistake, and ignorance is no excuse for the law, buddy. So I like to turn things back on people when deserved, and so Lefty ended up basically I named his thing.
Nice.
Well, Steve is here, and he was arrested in Lavalette for filming the council meeting, for exercising his First Amendment right to film a council meeting. He was arrested, and he gave the police officer the Supreme Court ruling. It was he knows what it is, and
New Jersey Supreme Court.
yeah, and
Pine Hill.
Pine Hill. Thank you.
Yep.
And yeah, Steve, what's going on with that case?
So I did a motion to dismiss. I forget what day it was. I want to say December 18th, maybe January 18th. And it wasn't ruled that it was a First Amendment protection. It's a common law right. That's what Torres versus Pine Hill established. And they've doubled down now this year. In the resolution, they put in there that you have to seek permission 24 hours prior. And then there's also a resolution that if you use profanity at the meeting, they'll throw you out as well. And that's against the First Amendment, as well as Rosenfeld versus New Jersey. So you're allowed to curse at a meeting. You can't yell and scream. The content of your speech isn't the issue. It's the yelling and screaming. So you can go. But I think if you go in there and record, and I think if you curse, they're going to arrest you. And in fact, I put on there the other day that the chief of police is a pussy, and Christian LaCicero responded saying, we never met, blah, 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 have a nice, get a life. And then I screenshot that, and then he either deleted it or hid it. So
But he didn't deny being a pussy.
No,
Okay.
no, he didn't.
I find that curious.
It's pretty fucking insane, you know. And I'm dealing with this with a lot of places. Like, so the girl that broke the story in Bradley Beach, I taught her how to do Oprah. She asked me for, you know, advice and stuff like that all the time. She broke that story with the chief over there, so I went on to go onto their Facebook page, and you cannot comment. Now, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see there's comments, and then they turn off the commenting. And they said that, oh, the prosecutor's office said it's okay. You have a case out of Hamilton from a couple of years ago now. Kelly Yeadie was the mayor. Durnoff was deleting and blocking people. She got sued and lost. That's the case law here in New Jersey. You can't do that. If you're running a government page and they said, well, we have the profanity filter on. Okay, you can't do that either. That's censoring. And I think they have censored words too. So you can't do that either. So, like, if you go on a post and you see it's got 5 comments, you can comment, but then you go on there and you don't see any comments. They could do they could do certain words that are like censored or banned. So like the, is. So if you write anything with those words in it, it looks like it's posted, and it's not posted. That's what these governments are doing, and there's actually a Supreme Court case that's up there right now about a Board of Ed where they did that. So hopefully the Supreme Court of the United States is going to rule on that. But again, it's like sometimes you speak to some IAs, because every time I see it, I do an IA, because the town you can't do an IA. It's kind of like whatever, you have to sue. And I actually did an IA on La Cicero, and the prosecutor's office called me. It seemed like the detective was very sympathetic. But he's like, the lawyers are saying that it's a civil issue. You have to sue for it. First off, why do I have to sue to enforce my First Amendment rights? Second off, no, it's deprivation of civil rights. So that's a 2C charge. You know, government doesn't want to go after government unless it's really heinous, like, you know, Officer or Chief of Police Guido over in thing, or coming up here with my town with the mayor throwing out a homeless black guy. And everybody quivering and running into the safe in the building because he asked for a cup for water.
Steve, you're in Spotswood?
Yep.
That's what I thought. Okay, just checking.
Yeah, so I'm being sued right now by the mayor to stop the production of the video. So I've asked for this video for about a year. Now we've heard now there's 9 videos. So I've asked for this video for about a year, body-worn camera, where the mayor told off all the cops, and she wanted this guy thrown out of the building, and he might shank somebody if he's off his meds and all this other crap. And if you're black, you're shanking, and if you're white, you're stabbing. I mean, is that how we're doing it today? So I've asked for it for about a year. And when I go to the council meetings, they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. What video? I'm sorry. When I go there, I argue about it, and I say, hey, this is what the content is. And they're like, well, how do you know so much about this video? Then my Oprah request would always come back. We don't know what video you're talking about. I have the date, the time, where the building is. We have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, it's insanity. So she's suing me. She's suing the prosecutor's office. Gannett Newspapers also jumped in. I'm an intervener. So the last thing that's out there right now is basically they sealed everything without a judge's order. So basically, when you go on e-courts, they just click the thing saying confidential, and everything was more confidential, so you couldn't see anything. So you couldn't even tell what the lawsuit was about. They were trying to hide me from it and didn't name me as a defendant, even though it's my public records request to try to keep the public out of it, to keep me out of it, to basically seal all this stuff and then have it all destroyed so nobody can see the video. I successfully, with the help of my lawyer, Walter Lures, intervened with it, and so did Gannett Newspaper with the help of C.J. Griffin. The insanity, and so very, very, very important. They're trying to gut Oprah, so you're not going to have a fee shift anymore. You're not going to be able to do email logs, emails. It's getting gutted. On the 11th, on Monday, you can go in and testify in front of, what is it?
Yeah, Monday. There's 2 committee hearings
Right.
at the same time, Senate and Assembly at the same time.
Who's the
Yeah,
chair?
so we're
Who's
going
the
in-
chair,
we're-
Steve, of that?
I believe Sarlo's the one that brought it up.
Okay.
So they're trying to gut it, and they're just like jamming it through. Well, you're not going to be able to find Chief Guida. You're not going to be able to find a racist mayor. You're not going to be able to find emails that and all these different things that are going on, because now you're going to have a shadow government if this goes through. I mean, it's just insanity. But, they're like, well, they're getting sued and it's costing them a lot of money. Yeah, because they're not siding on transparency. They're siding on, we don't want to give it. And if you really want it, sue. If you don't sue, we don't have to give it to you. Screw off.
Did you try to appeal it in Trenton?
What's that?
I want to, don't quote me, but can't you appeal denied Oprah's to the DCA?
No, what you do is you sue. So basically, you get an attorney, C.J. Griffin, Walter Lures, Colin Bell. Those are 3 really good attorneys. So basically, you do the Oprah request. It comes back, let's say denied. So let's say you ask for email logs, which I've done, and they just ignore it now. So if there's no denial, the attorney won't take it because, well, you didn't get denied and it wasn't approved. But the law says after 7 days, if you don't get it, it's automatic denial. But
Right.
there's no denial because it's an automatic denial. So now they just ignore the stuff. But if you get a denial, basically you send it over to the attorney. If they feel they can win and they feel that it's worded correctly and you're going to win the case, they'll sue. And then usually I just sign on my phone 6 months later. Hey, we won, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. How much money you get off them? My thing is sue these guys into submission so that they just give you everything. Because if you're asking for something and you don't sue all the time like I do, screw off. We're not going to give it to you. Well, why? Well, because we said so. The I said so law, where if somebody's suing all the time, it's like, listen, we can't afford an $80,000 bill. Just give it to them. Because that's what happens. In Helmetta, when we sued, it was 71 out of 72 counts we were found in violation of, and the bill was like $61,000. So when you do that, they just give everything out to you, and sometimes they're giving you stuff they're not supposed to give you. Driver's licenses, social security numbers, all this kind of stuff they're not supposed to. It's almost like you need a dedicated Oprah person in there that knows exactly what they're doing and reports to the clerk. And if they're not doing Oprah, then they're helping out with other stuff. But you need somebody that's like dedicated, that's under the clerk, because the clerk is ultimately responsible. But like for a while, a bunch of people were Oprah requesting into Spotswood. Well, we're getting inundated and blah blah blah, voluminous amount of emails. Oprah requests. That doesn't matter. That voluminous is only if it's me. So if I'm asking for a year's worth of emails, that's voluminous. And now you can ask for extensions, blah blah blah. A lot of these towns ask for extension after extension after extension, and you're only supposed to ask for one extension, and you're supposed to be able to deny it. But these guys just do whatever they want. 10-day extension, 10-day extension. I think I have one from Long Branch right now. It's probably going on 6 months to 8 months worth of extensions that they just keep on giving themselves. It's insanity. And if you're doing something bad, you just don't give the paperwork over. Or like Helmetta used to do, she would go through and nope, they're not getting this one. They're not getting this. They're not getting this. The one council member used to have to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we would get it and we go 1, 2, 5, 6. Where's it at? And they, you need transparency in government, so we know what's going on. Just like recording at the level of council meeting. So if you own a house there, it's your summer house because it's a summer area, but you live in New York, you live somewhere else in Jersey, and you only go there once in a while. It's pretty convenient not to have any of the videos on there. And then you have Babs over there writing everything according to what the government wants her to write. No video, so nobody else can see it unless you're in that room where you're reading her little blurb. And if you're not from the town, she doesn't write what you said. Oh, some dude in a mask said something. I couldn't hear him. oh, this person talked, I couldn't hear him. But if you're not living in state or you're not in the area, you can't go to the council meetings. They don't want to record it. It's all about transparency.
Well, thank God for mayors like Dan Francisco here, because he when you started before you became mayor, wasn't Englishtown one of the towns that opted out of cannabis? They did opt out. Okay.
Yes. So, like we mentioned earlier, that when the prohibition was lifted, they had so many months, like 6 months or 5 months, to act. If they failed to act, when I say they, I mean municipalities, it would be a default grandfather of everything being legal, all 6 varieties. They're like retail, cultivation, manufacturing, wholesale. I'm missing a couple off the top of my head, but there's 6 altogether. Testing, I think, is one of them. Anyway, so if the League of Municipalities, which is like a nonprofit that is comprised of people in various public service positions, mayors, lawyers, clerks, they put out some kind of paper that said, hey, you all should ban this until we know more information, which was just a bullshit, trope to get most people to ban it. I don't know why, because I remember the people in my town kept citing that, the league says not to legalize it. So at that time, I was the only voice out of 6 people on the council, and that was amenable to legalizing. And I'm a purist, so I was like, I would legalize everything and put no restrictions. That's how I feel. Most towns put a ton of restrictions even when they do legalize it. So initially, 66% it was higher, like 70%, I think, of townships in New Jersey outright banned. Completely 100% ban all varieties. Then of the 33% or so remaining, those allowed some form of business. Almost none allowed all. And I can't tell you how many did. But I can tell you with certainty the one town that ended up having all is Englishtown. So we slowly picked away at people on the council that were not only, and it wasn't just because of cannabis, it was really because of a succession of reasons. But over the course of the subsequent 2 years, I campaigned to get new people on. I helped them every cycle. We picked off 2 people, picked off a person, and then in the 3rd year, we picked off the last 2 people and the mayor seat. My mayor had been there for 23 years unopposed. No one had ever run against him. This was the first time anyone contested him, and I won with 4 times the vote that he got. So in the 2022, I think it was 2022, we beat someone in the primary, and because they were acting childish and were bitter, they resigned like the next month. They didn't even finish their term, which gave me, the new committee person, the county committee person, the authority to pick the 3 choices to replace him. And we put on another person and got the 4-vote majority for the last 6 months. So to sort of, I'm not even ashamed to say it, it was tactical to sort of spite them. Instead of now, whereas they held us hostage for a year and a half and said, we won't discuss this at all. Because I told my mayor, look, I get it. You don't like cannabis. You think that the sky is going to fall and crime is going to, take over our city. Yeah, it's literally that's what they think. They were saying things like, this is going to become San Francisco. There's going to be alcoholics and drunks and drug addicts in the streets sleeping. Like every horrible image was conjured up by these sensational people. I asked them, okay, I get it. You don't like cannabis. Let's compromise. If you don't like the retail stores because you think it's going to bring in a bad element of people, will you compromise and at least put in a grow facility or a warehouse for wholesaling, because we get revenue off the sales of that, and there'd be no business to B2C. There's no business to customer transaction. It's all B2B. They have to take their product out in a truck and ship it somewhere. And he basically said, go pound sand. No. So when we got that 4-vote majority a year and a half later, I remembered that. And I said, you know what? The second we put the person on the dais, we said, I'm going to motion to repeal our ban in its entirety and replace it with nothing. And we took 2 meetings to do that because if you have a motion from the dais, from a council person, it goes on the next agenda. And then it takes 2 meetings to exchange an ordinance. So we just repealed it without replacing it with anything, which I'm almost positive we are the only borough that did that. And they lost their minds. Even people outside the town were like, what are you doing? It's going to be chaos. I'm like, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
We'll be just fine. So we had a rush of people throw applications at us. We had lawyers calling us, advocates, lobbyists, like everyone you can imagine that represented some kind of client was calling us. Then I found out that certain people in the old regime were sandbagging them. So if they called and got to somebody else in the office, they would tell them, go away, we're full, or we're not legal here. They just lie and make stuff up. So I eventually, got wind of enough of them, and I just said, okay, have your lawyers draft a resolution. We'll look at it, and we'll put it up and vote it through. So in that same last 4 months that I had control from like August, 5 months, from August to December, we passed like 3 or 4 resolutions in December, and then we passed like another 2 in January. And then I had wholesalers and cultivators start contacting us. To this day, we still have 1 license open for retail that no one has taken. But we basically shoved all these people through the door with no regulation. And then at the beginning of the new year, it went back to a 3-3 tie because of the way the primary ended. And, with people that are pro and con. And the mayor broke the tie. Breaks ties. So the previous mayor at this time was still in power. So he was able to veto everything. So at this point, he decided, well, I want to regulate it now that I have the majority again. So they did. They passed a ordinance in April of 2023 that specified a bunch of things, hours they can be open, the types of licenses, how many there are. We have at least 1 of every variety, but they're not unlimited. It's like 5 retail, 1 of all the other ones, and I believe 2 of cultivator. But this is what the mayor pared it down to, basically. And from there, we had even more, another license come to us that May. And as of today, we have had 2 retail licenses. Well, all of 4 licenses for Class 5 retails are out of Englishtown. They're approved and out to the state. 2 of them have been approved by the CRC and are awaiting inspection, and 1 just got put on the CRC agenda for March. I just saw that today, actually. So we're going to have them open probably in the next month. And it's very odd, and people are kind of losing their minds because it's all in a half square mile, right? We're talking like 2 blocks, and there's going to be multiple of them open right next to each other. And I say this candidly when I talk to people. I say they're not all going to survive. I mean, they're literally right next to each other. But yeah. I think maybe 2 will. Maybe 3 will. I don't know. We have cultivator that has a resolution. We have a manufacturer that has a resolution. So we'll also have warehousing. People that can grow and then grow it, then take it to a manufacturing facility in the next building, and then sell it to our retailers. Right? We almost have like the entire system right in our town. Mm-hmm. So we are going to become a somewhat of a vanguard for the cannabis movement. We're going to become a sort of symbolic capital of the industry in New Jersey, because you're going to have a sort of holistic top-down distribution system in 1 little borough, in 1 little town. And we're going to prove that just because these stores open, that the sky isn't going to fall, and there's not going to be homeless people sleeping in the streets, and there's not going to be gunshots going off in the air. It's just going to be business, probably a very lucrative business. And what I actually value more, because I'm for legalization, but I'm somewhat ambivalent to it. Like I'm not really super into marijuana or anything like that. What I'm excited for is the development that it's going to usher in, because now all of these other businesses are buying all the properties around the stores. So this sleepy town that was abandoned businesses, that nothing was there after 2 p.m. on any day, it was all closed. Now suddenly we're going to have nightlife. There's some things I can't share, but I know that there are other non-cannabis businesses that have put in plans to remodel buildings. There is a rush on commercial property in our town. So I'm very excited. I am always going to remember and thank the entrepreneurs in that industry, because they are going to be the reason that our town has a renaissance, and I'll always be indebted to them.
You know, I gotta say, the phrase "nightlife" in English Town. I mean, I've lived in Toms River. I was going to the English Town to the market, the auction, the huge thing. 50 years ago, and I've had cause to be in English Town and passed through over all these years, and the idea, I mean, it really made me feel warm. Like there's a chance for everything if there become a nightlife in English Town, and that's a hell of an example to set too. I mean, people will be pointing to English Town saying, yeah, well, they did it there. So, this is interesting. Anyway, I got to get going in a second. It's been great. Really fun night tonight. And Steve, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Daniel, nice to meet you. And Sue,
Great to meet you, Jim.
And, I'd stay longer. It's like right up my alley. I just love the new views. And I have lots of questions, but in the time it would take to stop what's going on, it's fun just sitting back and soaking it all in.
What's your question, Jim? What, you got a good question?
No, it was almost like in a more casual conversation, it would do that, but it had such a good flow, and it was fun because it's like not all coming from one direction, it's do this again, man. Don't make yourself strangers.
I've been all over the state, hundreds and hundreds of council meetings, and I've met a lot of different mayors and police chiefs. And some mayors are wonderful, and then there's some mayors like Wally from La Valette that are not so wonderful. And there's police chiefs that are terrific police chiefs, like the police chief in Keyport that helped us get a quarter pound of weed back for a patient. So it's very. Every town is different as far as the government, the governing body, and how.
Well, Edison just had a shift the other day with one of the ordinances, and it got jam packed with like 100 parents, and mob rule. They turned everything down. So now you have cancer survivors, you have cancer patients, you have the sick and injured, like you always say, Lefty. They can't get pot. Well, you can go to Woodbridge. You can have them deliver it. Is it free delivery? No. Well, then, so you want them to pay more money to get their medicine?
Yes.
So you can have pharmacies everywhere. And they were talking about the gun issue too, like, oh, there's be crime and there's be guns everywhere and people sleeping on the streets. Like, what are you talking about? And then for the children, like, it's medicine.
Steve, you know what the laughable part is? Like, we all know that the prices these recreational facilities charge is way more expensive than you can get it, elsewhere.
Correct.
So this isn't going to kill the black market, right? It's not even going to go away. And there is a grow bill that's making its way in Trenton now. So those that are inclined to grow will soon be able to. It's ridiculous that they can't now legally, but like the people that are going to be going to these are like wine moms, right? It's not like gangbangers. Like it's going to be like suburbanites that want to overpay for their weed. Like that's the type of customer you're going to have.
I bought some edibles the other day because my back is killing me, and I'll take them at night sometimes to help me go to sleep. And I'm not a THC kind of guy, but I'll take it to be able to go to sleep and stuff like that. Personally, I don't like how it makes me feel, but I know PTSD patients that don't have to think, if they're smoking it or using THC and anxiety and everything else. It's a medicine. I mean, I don't get the reefer madness of like, oh, it's going to ruin our town. Oh, you just go to the next town over and get it. Like, what's the big deal? Well, yeah, what's the big deal? Just have it here. It's a legal product. Stop.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the debates we had was they started saying things like, well, they're going to be smoking in the streets. And I was like, are you aware that they can smoke in the streets now? Like, I can light up a fat blunt right in front of our police station on the sidewalk, and there's nothing they can do. Like, they can't stop you.
That's what Christo did. Christo was at the meeting. He pulls out a joint and goes, I'm going to go smoke this fatty outside right now.
And Christo's been to our town before. Yeah. He and I'm like, so what do you think you're stopping? I'm like, do you drive? And I told him, do any of you drive around our town at midnight? it smells like weed because everybody's lighting up before bed, right? They're getting in their hit, whatever.
Yep.
And they think that the store is somehow the reason that it's going to inject this wave of crime. It's ridiculous. The store is going to inject revenue into your coffers and increase your property value and encourage other investors to buy property near there. That's it.
Well, they're saying it's going to decrease the value, and crime's going to go flying, and nobody's going to want to come here. Like, you're out of your mind. Like, stop.
Yeah, just tell them, go to another dispensary and tell me what you see. And you'll invariably see a line out the door and a diverse array of normal people waiting in line to go in. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to the one in Vegas. The first time I actually smoked pot was 3 years ago. I'm 50, so I was 47. Did it legally in Vegas at the biggest dispensary in the world. And what's the big deal? I don't get it.
Yep. It's something that they're unfamiliar with, but with time, this will go away, just like everything else. Look at 30 years ago. Smoking cigarettes, everyone smoked cigarettes. It was just like a common thing. You ask the average person now, they'll be like, oh, cigarettes are bad for you. And smokership is down, in the last 30 years.
I said it'd be banned, and I said you're not going to be able to smoke cigarettes, but you'd be able to smoke pot. I said it years ago.
Yeah. And so smoking pot now has the same privilege as smoking a cigarette, right? In public, you're allowed to.
Yeah, Lefty did that with Mikey over in Seaside Heights.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Right on the boardwalk in the smoking area.
Well, I hope you guys, when we start cutting some ribbons at some of these businesses, I hope you guys come and visit and check out these new shops and patronize them. We got to support these guys that are investing in our towns.
Yeah, I live right by you guys, so I'll definitely go over there. I mean, you get the liquor store right on the corner there too. So what's the big deal?
We have multiple bars. We have 2 bars. We have 2 liquor stores. So you can get a beer, you can get a Long Island iced tea, you can have 5 Long Island iced teas, but if you go buy 1 gummy, like, you're at the end of the world to these people.
Yeah, you can go to the pharmacy, get Vicodin and everything else, and then go get the alcohol and have no issue. But oh my God, you have THC, you have marijuana. That's going to be the downfall. All the children, they might see it. I don't get it.
We'll see. I'm excited to prove everybody. It's not even to prove them wrong. I'm just excited for the prosperity that I know it's going to bring.
Yeah, to show it's going to work. It's going to be fine. Nothing's going to blow up. No crime's going to go crazy. It's just another legal business. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rolling a fat blunt here. Mentioned it.
I bought some gummies the other day at the mall, and I don't know, I guess they have CBD in them because my back feels all right, but I'm not feeling any craziness. Now I'm on opioids. I've been on opioids like 20 years. I ran out of my opioids, so now I can't really do anything else but maybe get some gummies. Me personally, I don't like to smoke, so I'll grab some gummies, and then I'll be able to manage my pain and go to sleep.
Steve, not to change the subject, but are you at liberty to say who the person was that broke that Bradley story? That was a big story.
My friend Beth. I'd have to look on my Facebook. But she's all over. If you go on Preserving Bradley Beach, you'll see all her stuff is on there.
Man, that was a big story. That was everywhere.
Well, the guy. So allegedly, according to her, the guy that got pulled over was drinking in the chief's house. And then I guess got in an accident.
Oh, wow.
So the chief came out drunk and was like, trying to save my friend. And oh, by the way, he was also drinking at my house. Interfered with the investigation, obviously. Now, if that was me or Christo or you, we would have been handcuffed in 2 seconds. Why isn't he?
Yeah, I remember like the story broke. Well, the video that happened in like the fall, and then the video came out a couple weeks ago, and then 2 days or so after the video went viral, that's when they said prosecutor's office went through other records and decided to act on disciplining him and him resigning or whatever. So
but he should be arrested and he should be charged with official misconduct and lose his pension.
Oh yeah, I mean he was interfering with this, with people doing the stop, with the officers doing the stop, and I couldn't really see the guy whether he was drunk or not, but it was obvious he was trying to influence them, and
Yep.
it was crappy because he's like trying to demean the guy about the letters on his jacket. It's like, come on,
Yep.
man, like you're doing that on.
That's your worst thing today.
Yeah, it was almost like I'm gonna retaliate against you and embarrass you because you're not doing what I want you to do, type of thing.
Right. Well, he's trying to save his friend.
Yeah. That was what I knew. See, that makes sense. I knew there was something more to that story. It didn't make sense. Like, why is he coming out from wherever he is drunk and like standing? I knew there had to be some kind of connection.
Yeah, like where did you come from? Well,
Yeah.
supposedly he's like in front of his house or a little bit down or whatever, and that's why he was there.
So he lived in town. Because
Yeah, wherever that was, he was there.
That restaurant, I know exactly where they were because of the restaurant in the back. I know that's right on Main Street.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been to Bradley Beach, Ocean, whatever it is over there, Ocean Gate, and all that stuff in the area. And I actually knew one of their council members from back in the day.
Yeah, that is wild. And then I wanted to go to the meet. I'm like you guys, like now that I'm in this world, I kind of enjoy going to meetings when something controversial is happening.
Sure.
Because it's fun watching other people handle the stress. Or handle the controversy. Like the things that I find stressful are not like what most representatives would find stressful. Like I don't care if someone comes and contradicts me. Like you guys go and challenge people, as you should, right? You go and you challenge people. You ask for records. You may even say something nasty to them. It's your right to do it, right?
No.
So when someone comes and says something nasty to me, I smile. I'm like, cool, thanks, man. Like whatever. But that's that little petty stuff. That's what they struggle with.
It's assholes and egos.
Right, it's the ego that's the stuff they F up with. It's not the like serious stuff. It's the like I won't tolerate you yelling at me type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and with the Oprah, we got rid of the NJSPCA. I got rid of the Helmetta shelter. The police department's gone. We got rid of this. Would be the third mayor. So without Oprah, they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do. You know, even when. So what usually happens is if something controversial like that happens, I wait a couple months. Then I open request their emails with whatever the controversy is because they're comfortable emailing each other back and forth. After you do that, they make phone calls instead, so nothing's in an email.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I email. I don't hide this. Like you have to email, right? And the logic is there's dude. And I'm not saying I'm like an advocate. I'm not advocating for government or anything, but I'm saying just the reality of running a town. There's a lot of stuff that happens. You have to be communicating like daily. And it's not sexy. Like you can open request my emails. It's me trying to make sure utilities are running, make sure that services are running, that problems are getting solved, metaphorical fires are getting put out, right? Like
of course, that's a business.
Management. Yeah, it's management. You're managing a bunch of business entities. So that stuff happens. Now you're kind of stupid if you just like, oh yeah, let me talk about inappropriate stuff. Yeah, of course. Like, but then I don't see why people get indignant about showing it. You want to Oprah request my emails? Go ahead. Oprah request every one of my emails. You'll be bored to tears reading it because it's just mundane business shit. Like it's,
and that's what most of it is. So like you'll ask for an email log, and it's like, all right, page after page after page, and like, all right, what's the subject here? All right, let me see what that is. All right, page after page, and then you might find a couple things, but that's it. But those little couple things might be something.
You know what you'll find? I'll give you a clue. It's usually not the representative, it's someone else, right? Like, so they'll say something because they don't realize it's discoverable.
Yes.
And they'll give you a clue to something. So it's not my problem. Some resident says some stupid thing, that's on them, right? But like, that's usually when Oprah people find a nugget on or gossip is through that. It's not. It's not the rep. I mean, there are dumb reps out there. There are dumb reps out there sometimes.
I've been doing it for 10 years, man, and it's without Oprah, everything's gonna be in the shadows.
Yeah, I'm against that, man. I think you should be able to see everything I type into that computer that's not like legally privileged or
Sure.
sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Well, it's like going in the buildings and recording. I don't want to go in restricted areas. I want to go in the places I'm allowed to be. That's all.
Think about it, Steve. You paid for it.
Yep.
You paid for it. Why should I be able to hide it? That's ridiculous. You know, this is where dude, I get in trouble for talking like that. I mean, you know me. You know how I feel about these things. People are like, "Oh, why do you have to say that? Why do you have to broadcast that? Why do you have to?" Because it's the truth. Like, that's how I feel. What do you want me to lie? Like, you're literally stealing. If I go and have communications and don't share it, like that's their resources. It's not mine. Who am I to not, show it to them?
Yeah.
But dude, people come into my town hall and I'm dressed like in a t-shirt. And they're looking for someone in the police department. I take them to the police department. I knock on the door and I ask for the chief and say, "Can you help this guy?" And then people go, "Who is that guy?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's the mayor." Like, "Oh, that's the mayor." Like, yeah. Like, he's paying money. He's paying good money that I certainly don't wish I was paying the taxes I'm paying. So if I'm taking this job to help people, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure that they have a good experience, because every experience with government is garbage. So if I can't do my part to make someone's day a little bit better, why am I there? What's the point?
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, dude. I encourage. They told me this because Christo did an audit the night that you were there one night where you guys came.
We probably went. I think we both went to the police department in the back.
Right. So I got in trouble for that, right? Because they thought I told you to go there.
No.
And I said, I didn't even know who these guys were, right? I met them once at a boardwalk, and then they came to an event at a restaurant that I invited them there, and they on their own went to the police station and audited people. And they're like, "Oh, they were doing this and that." I'm like, "Did they assault someone? No. Did they, threaten anybody? No. Okay, what's the problem, dude? Like, that's your job, is to have people ask you shit, and maybe they video record you. Are you like a pansy? Like, who cares? They video record you. You're video recording them. Who cares? Like, and ironically, here's the funny part, Steve. The guy that you audited, his dad is on my council now.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and he's a nice guy. Right? I'm actually going to see him tomorrow morning. The kid is a nice guy, but he's not a cop here anymore. He's moved. He's in another town now. But the point is, like, my certain people, I won't say who, got mad at me. I'm like, "Why are you mad at me?" I'm like, "Oh, you must have told him to go there." I didn't tell him shit. Like, they decided.
It's America.
Yeah. Now I'll be honest. If you berated the guy, you were assaulting him verbally, or I'd be like, "You know what? I'm sorry that happened." But I'm like, I'm not saying I'm sorry to you. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They're allowed to question you, right? If they came up to you and asked you, "Hey, where's the gas station?" you wouldn't be mad because they went up to you and said, "What's your badge number?" You're mad. Like, what's the difference? Like, it's So, then you guys came to that party, and I heard about the interaction from the officer because I saw him like a couple days later. And then I was like, "Oh, that's why these people are mad at me, because they think I somehow orchestrated this," and I didn't. But you know what's funny? They were like, "Well, when you take over, are these guys going to be here every day?" I'm like, "I hope so. Why not? Like, what do you give a shit?" Like, first of all, our borough hall is like one little tiny hallway of public space. We don't have like a big building. You've been there. So it's like, I'm in there every day. Dude, I'd love if you stopped by with your camera. Come and say hello. I'd love to talk to you on camera and tell you, "Hey, this is what we do every day. This is the so-and-so that runs this department."
And that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
When these guys get all flipping out, it's like, "All right, you have a video, and now everybody knows what an order is." You go, "Hey, what do you want to know about the town? Hey, you want to schedule a police ride along? Hey, let me take you over here and show you around." Instead of going, you can't do that.
You should let me know. Come by and do it. I don't care. I'll introduce you to all the people that work there. We have really nice people that work. I'm very lucky, man. We have a small town, and usually government workers are like, they're angry, bitter people. I have some of the nicest people that work there. I'm very lucky, and I go there every day, and I ask them, "Hey, what can I do for you? What do you need from me today?" And granted, there's a lot of fires going on, right? And sometimes we're like calling, emailing, but I go there almost every day. I think I go there like 4 times a week, 5 times a week. And we had a staff meeting yesterday. We said, "How can we help you? What can we do to make your life better?" "Oh, we need this, we need that." "Okay, great. We're working on this. We're working on that. We're getting a new camera system." Blah. Things we're talking that we're doing. What's the big deal? I brought some pizzas. Let's have some pizza. If somebody was auditing the building, I'd be like, "Hey, man, we got pizza. You want a slice of pizza? What do you want to know?" I think we should do a video like that just to show, like, hey, Englishtown is friendly to First Amendment. Do whatever you want, man. You paid for this. It's not mine.
It's our building.
I might come to a wheelchair audit. Go
Well,
with
Would it
don't,
be
don't get me in trouble with the state, dude.
it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, dude, come and do whatever you want. I don't
now,
care.
at your council meetings? Do you have to say your name and address?
So it's funny. I've chaired a couple meetings now, right? The previous mayor would usually actually wouldn't be the mayor. It was the previous clerk that would yell about it sometimes. But people conditionally do it, and then sometimes the previous mayor or the previous clerk would say, like, give me your name and address. Sometimes our current clerk will say it, not in a mean way, right? And they can ask you for it, and you can decline.
Of course.
You can decline. We have cops that talk during public session and invoke Daniel's law, and they don't say their names. And I never tell people to say their name. I don't. But sometimes other people ask for it, and you can decline, right? It's fine.
Well, I declined in Lavalette, and wait, you're not gonna say your name and address? All right, meeting's over. You're not talking now.
Dude, we have a great attorney. He's an excellent borough attorney that we brought on. We kicked out our old attorney who had been there for decades. Old mayor had been there for decades. Kicked out an old planning board attorney, old planning board clerk. Got new clerk, new CFO. I've literally in the last 6 months, 8 months, knew everybody that is in a good like a administrative or professional position, like all new faces. We have a great crew in Englishtown. Like I'm very excited for the.
Who's your guys' attorney?
It's Jonathan Cohen.
I think I've heard that. I think I actually used him once.
He works in a lot of other places, so you might have come across him before.
Yeah, the name sounds familiar.
He's amazing. I love him. He's a great guy.
We're trying to get Larry Sachs back right now. So the council the other day tried hiring Larry Sachs, which was the attorney before Vicky Flynn, and they refused to certify the funds to be able to hire him. So now the mayor's suing the council because they're not hiring a QPA. And they tried hiring Larry Sachs to represent them to try to find out like what's going on in that lawsuit because everything was sealed. So the town is suing, but the council can't see what the lawsuit's about.
Yeah, man, that's odd. And it's funny because I think I met the mayor from that town a couple weeks ago. We don't.
I haven't seen her in weeks.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really know. I know the Manalapan people because we're very close with them. We're in their town, right? So we share a lot with them and we talk to them a lot, and just by proxy of being next door. But I honestly don't know a lot of people in other towns, so I kind of stick. I kind of tell my wife this. It's almost like the world outside of Englishtown doesn't exist to me. Like I live and breathe it every day. Like there's always something going on. I don't really have a reason to care about whatever's happening outside. Insofar as it does affect us, doesn't affect us. I don't really care.
No, Lefty, you can check out Bumble and see her.
Check out what?
Bumble.
Bumble?
Yeah, my mayor's on Bumble now. We don't even think she's living in town anymore.
Oh man, your town's wild.
Oh my God, it's insanity.
Dan, before I let you go, I got 3 questions that I ask everybody, and you don't have to answer them, but they're kind of fun questions.
Go for it.
The first question is: the first time you used cannabis, how old were you, and was there a story behind it?
No, look, I'm not really a big user. Like, I haven't used it in years and years and years and years. I was once in college, and I didn't really, like, even to quote Bill Clinton, I didn't really inhale. So it didn't do anything, and I was like, oh, this is dumb. I don't really have, like, a great story for you, man. I'm, like, not even really a user. If you ask any of my friends, like, I don't really use it. Like there was like a couple years where like I was like, oh, I'd do it once in a while, but it was very brief. It was like maybe a year or two in my. But I haven't, dude. It's been years. I don't even remember the last time I did it. So, and it's not a really great answer, but I can't even. Dude, I'm 37 years old. I used to be like a social drinker. I can't even drink that much. Like it's like the older I get, I'm not really like a party animal type guy. Like I enjoy beer. I can have like 1 or 2 beers and that's it, man. Like I'm becoming like a dud as I get older, man.
What is your favorite munchie food?
That's hilarious. It's funny you mentioned that. I would have told you years ago, spicy Doritos.
Oh yeah,
Dude, but they're terrible for you. They're horrible. All those dyes and bullshit. And like I was explaining to my wife, we like don't eat them ever anymore. But I was explaining to my wife once, like years ago, I had eaten like, I don't know, quarter of a bag or half of a bag of them. And I was like, oh, like I actually feel drunk even though I didn't drink. Like you get this like nauseous, weird feeling. But yeah, man, that. And then one time we were in California at like a winery, and this one dude brought like, he got so mad. He brought like a box of like $500 chocolate truffles.
Oh.
And we were like supposed to sample like half a bite, and me and my friend like ate the whole box.
Oh,
But yeah, man, again, I don't know, man. These days are just like, I'm like a meat and potatoes kind of guy, you know? That's like the kind of stuff I like to eat.
nice. Nothing crazy. Like, what's the craziest food like you put together? Any kind of weird like concoction? We've heard some weird concoctions.
No, man, I'm not like, this is going to be so boring. I feel like I'm copping out, but I'm really not. I'm like not an adventurous eater. I don't eat like crazy stuff. I hate mixing stuff. I'm almost like kind of anal about eating. Like I'm very boring. I'm like the wrong person to ask these questions. So it's funny. No one's ever asked me this before. So it's like funny to talk about. I get made fun of for my diet sometimes. I like very simple stuff. Like I'm not an adventurous person.
Okay, last question. If you have a friend who's down on his luck or depressed or upset or sad, what is something that you would say to them to lift them up, to lift their spirits, or something you would just tell anybody, like a life's lesson that you would, like a gem that you would tell people to lift their spirits?
That's a great question, man. Because I am learning that particularly men suffer a lot, dude. Men uniquely, I'm saying just men suffer a lot. They're expected to do
Provide.
everything, hold themselves to a certain standard, provide, not do anything wrong ever, be a guardian, be strong, be quiet, be respectful, be perfect. And not only that, right? You can't show emotion. You can't get angry. There's so much weight put on men, and there's a lot of bad relationships, bad expectations for what a man and a woman should be, for, you know, and without getting too much into another, you know, sociological discussion. But I've noticed as I get older, because I'm married, I have a son, that a lot of men my age, like they suffer quietly, right? Women tend to be like more emotive. You know, if they're sad or angry, they'll cry, they'll throw something, right? They kind of are more quick to share their emotion. They're more, I don't want to use the word shameless because it's not a shameless thing to show your emotion. It's good, but they're more ready to show their emotion. I don't know if that makes sense.
well,
But
when they're
men-
hanging out with their friends, that's when they get the emotions. We hang out and just watch the video and, you know, watch a sports game and never say a word to each other.
Yeah, man. So, you know, it's funny you bring this up because this week I had a conversation with someone very close to me. And this person is, man, like a beautiful human being who has had a tough life, has had the cards stacked against them, and they've accomplished so much. I admire this person like beyond belief, yet they think they're garbage. And I don't want to disrespect their privacy, but I don't know if this makes sense with what I've shared thus far, but it's like that actually really hurt me, right? So to answer your question, like when I see someone like that now, especially at my age, when I was in my early 20s, I probably would have laughed and said like, stop being a pussy, you know, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Now, man, I'm like, hey, man, I try to find like what makes that person a beautiful human being. And I try to paint the picture of how awesome they are and why. Forget why they're awesome, but why I value them, right? So it's like I'm affirming why I love you as a friend, all right? And it's literally happened like 3 days ago. So it's crazy that you're asking me this. But as I'm getting to this age, I'm hearing this more and more and more. I know so many men with families, with jobs, with mortgages, that are like spiraling quietly, and you wouldn't know it. They may have post-traumatic stress from something terrible that happened or bad family life, and men just hide it inside, man. And oftentimes in culture, the attention all goes to women, right? They're the prime victims. They're the ones that get all the attention. And you know what? I'm a funny guy because I would rather. I'll open up to you a little bit. I would rather get in my car at 11 o'clock at night and leave my house because I'm sad and call someone. Not that I'm sad about anything in particular. I'm just like not feeling well, and I'll call someone and I feel better that I'm talking to a friend, right? And I will drive around on a dark road in the woods, and I get at peace like laughing about stupid shit with a good friend. And then an hour later, I pull into my driveway and I go, I feel better. You know, I can go to sleep now. We as a society, and to get too meta here, but like the technological shit, like look at us. This is how we're meeting, right? We're talking. This is good. It's not a bad thing. But 20 years ago, you'd be at a VFW or, you know, a bar or a bowling alley or something. You'd be in person. You'd be looking each other in the eye. You'd be hugging, slapping each other on the back, having a beer, whatever. That like human element is kind of gone a lot. We don't have these communal spaces anymore where people get together. And I was just talking to someone. So the restaurant, Steve, that you met me at, they're like my best friends. And we joke about how that restaurant, it's been there for almost 50 years, is like the communal hub of this like part of town. Like anytime something happens of consequence, we do it there. And one guy from like the Knights of Columbus, which is in our town, which was kind of like fledgling, didn't have a lot of people. He came and he was all excited that he met us and other people and trying to get us to join. They wanted to start like a bocce league and, you know, card game and all this kind of stuff. And you could just see the exuberance in the guy that he saw life in us. Like, hey, here's some people who want to. It wasn't even for anything particular. It wasn't for a mission or politics or some philosophy or some objective or activism. It was just, let's just get together as men and laugh and have a drink, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what's missing, man. And so I really try to make, if there's someone I care about that's a friend, and I hear in any way some hint of like something is bad or they're not feeling well or they're upset about something, I'll text them, call them, and try to get them to talk or go meet them. Hey, go meet me for a seltzer water. We don't have to drink, right? You know, come meet me for a club soda. Let's go talk, you know, somewhere. And you'd be shocked, dude. Like people that you're not that close with will suddenly open up to you and tell you a lot of stuff, and you'll bond with people in ways that you could never imagine. So, man, I like to talk. That's my thing. I'm a talker. I like to make connections with people. People fascinate me. They enchant me with their stories. And I didn't have a hard life growing up. I was very blessed. So when I meet someone that I see, holy shit, they had it way worse than I did, and they persevere, I admire them. I respect them. I love them as a friend, right? So that's it, man. Love your friends, love your neighbors, love your family. Be good to people. And when you see a man, you know, who's a little quiet, maybe he doesn't come out and tell you that he's having a problem, but you sense something's off, reach out to them, man. Back channel them, ask them, because you never know what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah, keep your friend. Yeah, and if your friend is depressed, doesn't want to go out, you make him go out. That's the whole thing with Eeyore and Pooh. Eeyore is always depressed, but they always make him come with them.
Right. Yeah. Or just go see them. And it's something about being in person is visceral, right? Like it's real, you know, and it makes them feel like, wow, this person cares enough to like listen to me be sad, right? Some people don't even have that. So,
you suffer in silence.
Yeah, and you don't want that. If you can help one person feel better, man, you save the world, right? You're a hero.
Save the 5 feet around you.
100%. That's it.
Yep.
That's one of the best answers we had. A lot of answers. That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. Wow.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you having me. It's always great to see Steve. Steve, appreciate you recommending me coming on here.
Thank you.
Of course.
And come and audit the building one day so I can laugh with you guys on camera.
I will.
Hey, let me. Well, we're going to go through the list real quick. Well, not real quick, but it'll take a couple minutes here. These are all our friends and family that have passed on without legal cannabis. But first, I want to thank CMMNJ, CannaSense, UFCW, Jackson Storm, Smoking Monkey, Arlo Glass, OprahMachine.com. Monday, OprahMachine.com will be in Trenton fighting for Oprah rights.
I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there. There's 2 meetings at the same time, so we'll have to split up and figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what texting's for.
Yeah. SativaCross.org. Our list starts with Cheryl Miller. Jim Miller, who was on before, his late wife, Cheryl, had multiple sclerosis, and he pushed her across the state in a wheelchair and in a bed. And She got arrested in Washington smoking weed at the senator's offices because she couldn't get legal cannabis. Sabina Rose was a 15-month-old baby who had a 25-hour seizure. She died from a 25-hour seizure and waiting for legal cannabis. Diane, Gracie, Cindy Mae, Marie, Jack, Joan, Randy, Polly, Bill, Chad, Jeremy, Colette, Matt, Troy, Russ, Roger, Jay, Ella, Hattie, Jackie, Anthony, Jake, Armando, Felicia, Lynn, Dan, Sean, Joyce, Lori, Frank, Brian, Flo, Carl, Thorne, Frank, Lorraine, Terry, Charlotte, Cher, Jaybird, Michael, Marley, Colette, Brendan, Red, Rico, Lulu, Becky, Lawanda, Chip, Paul, and Jeff. And we end it like this. This is written 100 years ago during World War I. Maybe you've heard this before. It's called the Ode of Remembrance. I watch a lot of rugby, and they started saying this at rugby games, and I was like, where did this come from? And it was whenever somebody died, they would have this ceremony, and they would say this poem. It was the most beautiful poem, and I'm like, wow. It was, you don't hear it that often, but if you've heard it, you won't forget it. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Have
Good
a blessed
night.
week. See you on Monday, Lefty.
Yes, sir.
All right. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Dan. Thanks, Steve.
All right.
Thank you.
Good seeing you guys again.